Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. You know what I need to get? I need to get like a what's it called? Like an intro, like a theme song. Like
Yeah.
I need like a sacred
Yeah.
soul theme song.
Definitely something that vibes with you because I see
Yeah.
what you like now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or yeah, and I'll probably pick some like Disney magicals. Like
Yeah. You're definitely
Cinderella.
like that flowy, magical.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That vibes with you now that I see what you like.
Yeah. Soul talk, where our mission and our prayer is that this podcast will be a tool in the hand of God writing the world a love letter. May we lead lost souls back into the light. May we open doors. May we open up the possibility of your wildest dreams do exist and they can come true, that no matter where you are right now in life, whether you're in the throes of drug addiction, whether you are in an abusive relationship, whether you are homeless, whether you're suicidal, there is hope for everybody and anything in this world to be possible for you. Today, I have a very beautiful, empowering Latina queen in the house who's going to share with you her story. She's going to open her heart and be vulnerable to share how she got through the depths of hell that she's experienced growing up, through high school, through her 20s to today, and how she went from being a little traviesa,
yes.
troublemaker, black sheep, crazy one, the ones who we don't fit in anywhere. And, you know, she took the wrong road. She did some crazy shit, and that's what we're here for. For the crazy fuckers that you're still in that place, we're going to show you where she's at today. She runs a 7-figure business. I'm so proud to introduce this woman. We have Sari Lopez.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. So excited to be here.
Yes. Okay. So first off, let's make some fun lightheartedness. Give me a fact about you that nobody knows.
Oh my gosh, and nobody knows?
Yeah.
I'm a super open book.
A fact that like nobody on Instagram or whatever, people on the podcast would know.
That I'm super goofy. Like I'm funny. I think that people see me on Instagram or like on social media, like I'm serious. I'm serious about what I do.
Yeah.
But I'm very like down to earth, very goofy. I don't feel like I show that side enough.
No,
you know?
you definitely don't, because same thing, like I was rewatching other podcasts with you and I was like, she's so serious. But the minute you came in here and you hugged me and your smile, I was like,
Yes.
wait, who are you? Because the girl on Instagram.
And this is a real me, obviously, right?
It comes off a little scary. Like,
Yeah.
Like
I have the resting bitch face, right? Like I do.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I look mean. I think that people, when they first see me, they think, oh my gosh, she's mean.
She's serious.
I look like I want to slap somebody, and that's not me at all.
Far from it. And she's a Pisces.
Yes.
I love Pisces. I'm Taurus. We get along like this.
Yes.
Like, love Pisces women. They're very feminine, very girly, and very sensitive and compassionate to the world.
Absolutely. That's me. Yeah. Too much. Too much. Something. Yeah. And very forgiving, you know, like you could do whatever to me, which is sad, but I'm very, no matter if you don't, you know, someone doesn't tell me they're sorry or ask for forgiveness, I'm still very forgiving, which is, I think, been a good and bad thing, but I think it brings a lot of blessing too. Right.
It's very powerful. I love the vulnerability of people who can forgive.
Yes.
For me, that's not a strength. And I tend to, I don't want to ever say harbor anger, but I just like, fuck you. Like, I'll never speak to you again. But even then, there's still the fact that I won't forgive. There's a weakness in that. So when I meet beautiful women that are very forgiving, I find like it gives me the graciousness and permission for me to be able to do that.
I want to be like that sometimes. Like I want to, and I try to be like that, but I can't.
That's the polarity where we get to learn the masculine is fuck off. I'm out of here. This is who I am. This is what I'm worth. I'm out.
Yeah.
And then there's the polarity of bringing God's grace in and
Yes.
God's unconditional love.
Yes.
And standing true that I can still forgive and never speak to you ever again. You
is absolutely. And sometimes you have to like definitely write people off.
Yeah.
You know, just because they're not healthy for us or they're, you know, they're toxic and that's, we are what we hang around. Right. So, but I'm still super forgiving.
Yes.
So I can't even think of one person in my life. Well, maybe one, there's one person, but so like but I don't even hate anybody. So it's hard for me to harbor hate, but I've come a long way. I want to say when I was younger, like doing what I was doing, you know, I was definitely a harder person.
Yeah. Okay. So
you know?
let's go there. Because when I heard prison, I was like, holy shit. Like I've never met a woman who's like, I don't think I've ever met any women who have been to prison, like,
Right.
And for the record to the women watching, prison isn't jail. It's not, you got a DUI and you went to county, okay?
Overnight.
No, they go to city jail and they're like, I went to prison. I'm like, bitch.
Yeah, that was county, yeah.
You were there for 5 hours.
You're in a holding cell. You're in a holding cell, right?
You're there for 5 hours. It's
Right,
not prison.
right.
So prison is where you're going to do a year or more long-term time. And it's not county jail. County jail is when you go to Twin Towers down in LA. That's jail. So prison is where you go for long periods of time.
Right.
And it's where people go there for bad things, you guys.
Yes.
So I would love to hear, okay, let's go with childhood. I want to tell me about little Sari.
So I was adopted. So I was adopted at 3 days old. My biological mom was very young. So I recently found that out like a few years ago, but I didn't know anything. So I was raised in a Caucasian family. I was raised, my parents couldn't have children. And I also had an older brother who was adopted from a different family as well. So I was raised in a pretty average middle class, you know, home. My parents were, you know, hard workers. You know, we went to church. But I always was different. I looked different, obviously. My parents, you know, people always look at me and like, that's your mom or that's your dad? Like they're like confused.
So what are they like white?
Yeah,
like
yeah. My dad's like full-blooded Norwegian, and my mom is from
like Barbie Ken, like Ken. He looks
yes,
like Ken.
blue eyes. Yeah, he has like silver hair. Well, now he's 88, but bless him, he looks great.
Aww.
Like he's like a Viking, one of those big. He's a big guy, you know, and he's. But you know, that's all I knew growing up.
Yeah.
You know, so. But you know, you feel different. You don't have culture, right? You know, you feel like I didn't learn Spanish until like I opened my company, you know, or like I was married to a Hispanic man. But yeah, so it was different. So you kind of feel like something's missing. So I was always like you were talking about the black sheep or a different type of, you know, I didn't really fit in.
Yeah.
So I'm in school, I didn't really fit in, and I was raised in Washington, which is like 60-something%, you know, Caucasian, you know, like, so it's a different lifestyle, you know, so, but it was a good lifestyle.
Did you find growing up in school, the fact that you're around the racism?
Yes. Yeah. Actually, I'd have people call me like African porch monkey because I always had like bigger, obviously now I have lip hair.
Yeah. Go ring them through
Girl, I would fight. I would fight. I literally would. I had a girl call me that and I was tired of hearing about it. So it started with like these young guys and now you look at them and you're like, please. You know, now it's different, you know, but you look at people and you went to school with and you're like I got my shit together, you know?
Yeah. Oh,
and you know,
oh my God. They must be like, fuck, she's successful.
Yeah,
Damn,
no, literally. They're the same people
bitch.
like when they try to hit on me. So like it's crazy how tables turn and things change, but it's you know, it's fulfilling in life when things, you know, you look back. But you know, things when you're younger, you're trying to find your identity. So those things are hurtful. You know, for a young woman or
at what age do you remember these name calling starting?
Like junior high. Like 12, 13.
And people start getting
until
mean.
I beat someone's ass in the cafeteria. Like a girl called me the same thing. I hopped over the table and like that was the last time I was called that. So I found myself having to fight but I was always, my parents were not fighters. Yeah. My dad would say, stick up for yourself. My mom was like, just walk away. And I'm like, walk away. Like, so I always had the extra, like, you know, like I was just, you know, I didn't back down.
Do you know anything about what part of Mexico your family's from, like your mom's side or anything?
Yeah.
So I think that's like Mayans. So I find that us as Latinas, in our blood, in our ancestry line, we have Mayans. Like Mayans are fighters. Mayans stick up for, you know, the people who are, people are like bullying and all that.
Well, I always stick up for my friends.
That's why, that's why, like you said, even though you're around all these white people, but within you was like, yeah, you're not gonna
talk shit about me. Or they would make small jokes because they knew I was adopted. They'd be like, oh, you're a rape baby, or things like that. Like, little things, little like comments. And when you're, like I said, when you're an adolescent or when you're growing up, trying to find your identity.
Especially junior high. I find like junior high, especially for girls, there's already so much jealousy and bullying.
Yes.
Let alone like on top of that, they're adding to like,
yeah, literally. So now now it's a joke, the African porch monkey thing, and I'm like, whatever. But people can be hurtful. I mean, it's in school now, right? People are like, their kids are hurtful, So no, you could be the most perfect person, and you could get made fun of, and it's just life.
Those people, what's crazy is when people talk about, oh, the little kid was bullied, or this little kid committed suicide because of like something, or maybe they went on Facebook or something, it's crazy part is all the adults that are like, well, where were the moms at? All of those adults are the ones who are in our comments on Instagram now talking
Absolutely,
shit.
Absolutely, yes.
It's okay. They stand up for like, okay, well, the little kids shouldn't be bullied.
Yeah.
But hey, you're a grown adult bullying another adult.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not happy as a person, then you're going to be talking shit like that, because I find that I would never do that, right?
I would never go into someone else's comments.
If you have your shit together and you have your life together and you're working on yourself, you're not going to be in other people's like
comments.
Yeah, hello, like talking shit. Like even if I see something that I don't agree with, why would I waste my time saying it? Like it's like, let them do them. Like if a girl wants to post and doesn't have whatever, right? Whatever she wants to post, let whatever floats someone else's boat, cool. But like I feel like that's not a person who has her shit together, and a person who's like really healthy and working on themselves is not going to be in someone's comments talking shit about grown women or men, right? Like, and it's a lot of men, right? It's men. It's weird. I'm like, okay, like it's crazy if that men have so much time, because you would think it'd be more women. I mean, no, it's not.
Just the discernment to be able to scroll, because there's my own friends, there's things that they do I don't agree with.
Right.
Nor do I care to go comment.
Right. Or you're like, okay, whatever.
Other people's coaches' pages, like they might comment on a topic that I don't agree with. I don't go to argue with them. I literally just, okay, it's not in alignment. I just keep scrolling to the next post.
Exactly. It's not relevant. Post. Like you don't, because good people aren't, hurt people. So it just shows that those people have really obviously not dealt with things in life.
Yeah.
If you're like 40 or 50 years old or 30 and you're taking time to hate on women in the comments, and there's clearly some underlying things you need to work on. Like, I don't know.
I wonder if, because, like right now, the generation of men we have are just these soft ass little motherfucking pussies.
Right.
I wonder if back like in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, like, grown men were so busy taking care of their family.
Right.
Providing, protecting, working. Like, I don't think they would have been...
No, I don't think so.
Going like into people's comments.
Well, my dad's 88, so he was born in 36, and he is the ultimate. Like when I look at my father, like he's an ultimate example of a man. He's not perfect by all means, but he's a good man. He's a gentleman. He looks out for my mom. He makes her breakfast in the morning. They've been married like 50 something years. It's crazy. I know, and it's like that is like my daughter who's engaged and she's about to get married, Ariana. She's always like, I want that perfect, like that old school, because it's hard to find, But I think the problem is that there's so many men that weren't raised by men. So they're lacking that. And the women were too busy at home trying to make ends meet.
Yeah.
Working 2 or 3 jobs that they didn't have time to. And there's not a lot of men or women who are strong enough masculine, right? Because I feel like if you're an alpha, I feel like you are, and I'm an alpha. So I feel like we are strong enough to like tell men like this is what you need to do to be an actual gentleman.
Yeah.
But like a lot of women aren't like that.
Yeah.
So that's lacking, I feel. Like that's why there's fatherless children,
in
right?
Our comments.
Yes, absolutely. Because I feel like if you're raised and you're a gentleman, you're not going to be saying those things. You're not going to have time. You're going to be like, oh, keep scrolling.
Yeah.
Right?
And just like if you guys see something on the internet that doesn't resonate with you, maybe you think it's really stupid or like, oh, that's kind of gross. Cool. Just keep scrolling.
Yes. Absolutely.
Like, what you put out comes back to you.
Yes,
Energetically.
absolutely.
It's quantum physics. It's science. What you put out comes back. So every time you go into someone's page and comment, anytime you're bullying anybody or you're ripping somebody apart, you're literally receiving karma some point in the
Yes,
future.
absolutely.
That negative energy comes back 100-fold, not even 3 times. I don't know who came with this little 3 times folds.
Right.
Because now that I'm learning more about God, like,
right,
God
absolutely.
is fucking vicious.
Yeah.
God's vicious and God has a vengeance and he's tempered. Like,
Absolutely.
I'm like, where does people get this idea that God's this all forgiving? Nah, motherfucker, he's psycho.
Yeah, and that's a lot of the reason why I feel like me being like forgiving has really helped me and blessed me. So like there's a lot of people who have stomped on me, who have talked shit on me, the people I've helped, oh my gosh, like endless amounts of people, but they're the ones, you know, they're the ones like, you know, that are like really.
It's the ones you've done the most for.
Yeah.
That backstab you.
Absolutely. But you know, those people, I look at them now, they're still miserable. And you're so right. Like we're attracting what we're giving out. So I'm trying to attract blessing and, you know, like good energy all day, every day.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not always, you know, people aren't always giving me that good energy, but then I just like, woo, you know, you got to steer clear of those people for sure. Absolutely.
Woo. You know, so I always say, because as a healer, energy moves. So the fact that we even discussed people you were backstabbing us, it's in the energy caused me to choke.
Yes.
Because there's energy around them. There's energy in just like we said, like everything is energy. Like the fact that I was already choking on it again, like, cause I'm like, because.
But you know what? The more that you're in tune with that, right? The more that you really start to notice. So like when I'm in a presence of people with not the greatest energy, it's icky feeling.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like something you're like, okay, I gotta go. Like now I'm more, I want to be in touch with that. That's so important in life in general. So if you want to attract amazing blessings and good energy, like you have to be really tuned into your inner self, right? Yeah. And so like I've really been working on that lately. That's really, yeah.
I that's how I, with my coaching, everybody in my coaching program, they're like, there's a question and they're like, well, should I do this or should I do that? And so my thing is to teach them to come from God, right?
Yes.
People
Yes.
might not really know yet. So I'm like, okay, intuitively.
Yes.
Now, if you make this decision, does
Right.
it feel icky or yummy to your soul?
Absolutely.
And they'll be like, icky. I'm like, okay,
Then right there, that's it.
I'm like, there's your answer.
If it's not 100%, then it's a no.
Yeah, I'm like, if your soul's not turned on, if it ain't juicy wet,
Right.
why are we doing it? Why are you doing it? And they're like, wow, if we could just teach everyone, like, just make decisions that make you like uber yummy, juicy, wet. Like, yeah, I'm turned on with this decision.
Well, yeah, even if it's like business or like relationships, everything, it's all about energy. So I'm like, yeah,
and
exactly.
there's people like when you're around certain people you meet or different business partners, you're like, I just feel icky.
Instantly.
They feel icky.
Instantly.
It's like God soul tapping you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Run.
It's like the good and bad, like the analogy of, right? But it's so true. It's so true, though.
Like God will put it in your stomach to like.
Well, and how many times do we have like the bad feeling and we do it anyway? And it's always like a really bad fail. Yeah, that was my entire life growing up. You know what I mean? Like, bad. I'm like, oh my gosh, I knew not to do it. And I still did it anyway. Like it's like touching a hot stove. You tell a child, but we're like, as human beings, we're always like, we want to test the waters, right? Like until you learn that, okay, and like, no, now I'm listening to my intuitions. Now I'm vibing off of what feels good. And I say the same thing. If it doesn't feel good, we already know. But, and I'm teaching my daughters the same thing and they're young. And I'm like, if you can really intuitively, you know, like engage with your inner soul, with what feels good, with your intuition, you'll be so successful in life.
Huge.
Yeah. And at an early age.
What a gift that your children, you have 2 daughters?
I have 3 daughters.
3 daughters.
But my 2 younger ones are the ones, they work for me and I'm really close with them.
What a gift they have to be able to have you as a mom.
Well, it's been a crazy ride, I feel like, but like they've watched me go through a lot. Like, but I'm so like, they're so me. You know, they're so me. It's crazy.
Children are going to be 100% reflection of you, like me.
Right.
Like the times in my life where I wasn't the best me.
Right.
My daughter wasn't the best her.
Exactly.
Because she was reflecting back to me.
So true.
Me.
Yes.
Me. Like
yes.
the bad parts of
me. Oh my
me.
gosh, the same thing with me too.
And when I transformed,
right.
you know, and I shift from disempowering, toxic Deanne to loving.
She followed. Amazing.
And mind you, she wasn't even part of the transformation.
Right.
Just the energetics.
Absolutely.
Of
it's
me
you can't deny that energy. You can't deny that energy.
Yeah.
It's true, because I started transforming a few years ago and really working on myself, and really hard, like 3 years ago, about 2.5 years ago, like really tough, like going all in. And my girls have been transforming too. Yeah. So it's crazy. And I haven't really, I mean, of course, but it's what the influence, and you talk to your children and you tell them, and they see it too. You don't have to even say anything because they feel it. They see it, and it's something you can't deny. Someone with good, powerful energy, that give me the chills too. Like, but literally you can feel that and you vibe off of that. So you can't reflect that. It's a lot. If you're a negative person and you get in the presence of somebody with amazing energy, absolutely, it's like it's like the sun. It's like strong. Yeah. That energy is super strong, and people love it. Do you ever have people who just want to come around you for your energy for a minute?
All the time.
And they're like takers, and then they disappear because you tell them to get it together and what they need to do, and they're like, okay.
The messages I always get is never like, oh, I miss you, or da da da. It's
I need you.
I miss your energy. When can I see you?
Oh my gosh, it's so crazy.
It's always, I miss your energy. And I'm like, wow, like, how are you doing? Do you need anything, Deanne? Like,
because they're not in a good place. They just need to take a little bit of your energy because it makes them feel good for a minute, right?
And it literally makes me feel icky. Like, you just said, I miss your energy, which means, you're coming to take from me.
Yeah.
And
then they feel good for a little bit, and they leave and do their same old shit.
Yeah. And I'm
absolutely. I totally get that. That's so me.
I ain't gonna be
all day, every day.
Heroin for anyone for free.
Yeah. But you have to be like that. You have to be stingy with your energy, because it's not like, you have to feed you, right? You have to feed you. And when people are just constantly taking, it's draining. It's draining. So it has to be a balance for sure. So that's so me. That's crazy. That's crazy.
I just learned recently about energy transfer. There's like some fancy term for it, which I don't know by heart, but energy transfer, it's in the quantum field, that within 6 feet, it could be 2 feet or 3 feet. There's an exact thing, but we're just going to say 6 feet. That's where I have it at 6 feet. How far I can pull my energy out 6 feet, that anyone that is within 6 feet.
Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about that. Did you listen to him?
No, I haven't.
Oh my gosh, you have to listen. I'll have to send you a link.
Okay.
Exactly. He talks about that.
I've just known that from the fact of me being able to move energy. And just, like, as an energy healer, that's what I do. So I'm able to figure that out. But recently I didn't know that there was actually like a terminology for it. So we're just going to say like energy transfer.
Right.
And it explains that people who are like low vibrational, people who are angry or depressed, they actually release a chemical, like not a chemical, like a chemical is released from their body.
Right.
We're going to call it cortisol.
Right.
It's released from their body, and it vibrates within 2 to 3 feet outward.
Yes.
So it explains when a negative person is in the room.
It's just like, it chokes you. Like,
the negativity will always overpower the highest energy.
Yes.
It will cause it at some point to start like scratching away. So no matter how vibrational you are, at some point,
it's going to affect you.
It gets into your chemical frequency.
It does.
And it cancels it out every time.
That's crazy. It's true though.
Which is why us being high vibrational, we have to leave the room. We have to leave the relationship. It's so uncomfortable to our soul.
Yes.
That like I cannot be in a room in a presence with somebody with icky low vibrational energy.
No.
Because it's like clawing away at me.
Yeah.
As no matter how high I keep it, because at some point if we're all high vibrational, let's say my daughter walked in like fucking shit and then was just banging
it just affects you like immediately.
Then everybody be like, oh.
You can feel it immediately, and you're like, "Oh my gosh!" And it just, I learned that, and I started like 3 years ago. I was like, I left those people, changed my number, like totally was focused on myself, disappeared, only was like, literally hanging out with my children, and that was my biggest growth in life. Crazy, but you have to like shed off. It's like a snake shedding their skin. Like you gotta shed off like all of those people who are not good. Even saying it's family. You know, at times, it could be family. It could be, it could be your siblings. It could be your significant other. There's a lot of people it could be.
I think, I love when you see people break up
Right.
and the glow up after. You could always tell when somebody was in a toxic relationship.
Right. Absolutely.
Because afterwards, they're in the gym, they're doing their hair.
They're feeling good.
You see them smiling.
Yes.
Like I've seen people who I've never
suck the life out of
who
you.
I've never seen smile.
Right.
Smiling during the breakup.
Yes.
And I'm like, holy fuck, like why are you still with that person?
Right. Yeah.
And then people going back there and then again they're not smiling again.
Right.
And I'm like, so that's their own journey. It's their own path.
Right.
It's their own healing. But some people too, which I've also seen, like God always shows me is a lot of times Satan will send people who are the Jezebel spirits, which are incarnated like demons in them,
right,
to suck the life out of the most powerful humans who God has like big intentions for them.
Yeah. Well, they have more, there's more calling on their life, right? So they have the more temptation, the more,
and Satan's
the
like,
more trials they're going to go through.
Big booty bitch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's make her toxic. Let's make her mean because he's destined for something great.
Right.
But we know he's going to want to save this girl.
Right.
So I see this so often and I'm just like, I watch it from the outside and I'm just like, wow, like energy transfer is real because
it's absolutely real.
You can see the difference when two people break up. When I've got out of certain people that I'm like, whoa,
they got it together.
Yes.
They were held down. They were trapped in a toxic. Yeah, it's crazy. It's the same. It's anything that we're hanging around. I'm like a big person on. If they're not, feeding my soul and, holding me accountable, which is, I hold myself accountable all day, every day. But, you have to be choosy and really picky because I see so many people, they're trapped in all this in life and people die like that, and they're miserable their whole freaking life.
What a sad existence.
Yeah.
To die without leaving this powerful legacy.
Yeah.
But to just die being known as, they were
miserable, right? And then you get more miserable the older you get, right? Yes.
Like, why are old people just so
It's true because they never worked on themselves. I look at it like I feel like, well, because back then, and even when I was younger, like if you went to counseling or therapy, you were crazy. Now it's like it's okay, it's accepted. Like we need to be working on ourselves. It's a daily. I don't know about you, but I have a daily struggle with like I got to get up, hold myself accountable. Meditation, I do breath work, I got to check myself, nervous system reset. Like I already know when I need to do it. And so it's like, it's up and down. It's never like just straight across the board. It's like, like I know when I'm off, but that's the whole point is I know when I'm off. I feel it. And because I know what it feels like to be on, to be better,
And that's the daily key. And that's the daily habit I see and hear from everyone I know who's successful.
Right.
Everyone who's an entrepreneur, everyone who's at the highest elevation like you that I know, I hear the same exact thing. And the same as me. We have a daily set of habits.
Yes.
From the moment we wake up to the time we go to sleep that we operate from. And they're these little daily habits. They're daily wins. And we're just stacking them throughout the day.
Yes.
Yeah. Because we know we cannot get into a low frequency.
No.
We know, like, we're
it
all
feels
crazy.
like, it's funk. Like, it's like, I don't like it because it's crazy. But that's the whole thing. If people would be in tune with that, they could change their entire reality. Like, literally, you could change your, like, you could change so much about yourself. And it's just freeing. It's freeing. Because I didn't realize I used to be one of those angry people.
Yeah.
Like, yelling, throwing things, acting psychotic, like, really crazy and really miserable. And I didn't really, and I had anxiety. I was trapped by anxiety for years. I had a lot going on with my children and just life, and everybody has a lot going on. But it's how you deal with it and how you cope.
I used to have agoraphobia.
What's that?
Okay. So there's stress. People have stress, right? No, people get fearful.
Right.
And fear leads to anxiety. When you have anxiety, it can lead to a panic attack.
Right.
And panic attacks amplified can get even higher than that. They're called agoraphobia.
Okay.
Where you're in a constant, I was in one long panic attack for years. There was never no reprieve from it. It was a constant state of like
always feeling.
It was like one long panic attack that didn't stop. They call it agoraphobia. It's a panic attack times 10 because it's a state you can't get out of.
Oh, wow.
Without drugs or alcohol.
Yeah.
And I just got sober. And for 2 years I had agoraphobia. And I refused to go on any kind of medication because my whole life I thought I'm the strongest bitch ever. How are you going to tell me? Like I couldn't leave the front door for 3 months.
Yeah.
3 months I was stuck in my house because I had so much fear of getting behind the wheel. And one time I happened to make it into the car, into the market. I made it through the front doors and immediately was protrudingly sweating and my throat. And I felt like I was having a heart attack, which I know it's a panic attack.
Right.
And I made a U-turn and went home. And I remember that I'd be calling the doctor and being like, okay, I need medication, bitch. Because
But what were you afraid of? Were you afraid of like death or like dying or an accident or?
I don't know what it was, but I think the cause of the panic attacks was me getting sober from crystal meth.
Yeah.
So my nervous system had
absolutely.
and it was from an overdose. So I think everything, my whole nervous system was whacked. So when I was sober now,
you got to get it reset, basically. Yeah.
There was no dopamine or endorphins to bring down the cortisol. So I was just in a constant state of cortisol just flying through me.
Oh, wow.
And it took medication. And then 7 years later, I went off my medication.
Yes, I remember you talking about. I've listened a lot about your story. Well, amazing! Shout out to you. That's amazing. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
It takes a lot to get clean and to change your entire life. It's not an easy thing. So, and not everybody does that. They like to stay because they don't know how or they just don't try. Right?
I think too. I was telling you earlier how proud I am of you and how your daughter's lucky to have you because. I wish my mother would have known about transformation. I wish my mother would have known about healing and that I needed to do work.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because then somebody would have told me, Deanne, you're an alcoholic. Deanne, there's depression. Deanne, you're brokenhearted. Right. Deanne, you're empty inside. This is how you transform. This is how you step into your highest selves and role model that.
Yes.
Because then I would have had the tools. So I love the fact that my daughter gets to see what transformation is. She gets to see what healing looks like. She gets to see what high elevation is.
Yes.
And it's something I didn't get to see. I had to literally learn through being on the streets, overdosing, hanging out with the wrong people, and finally hitting rock bottom and being suicidal. And then me finally saying, maybe something's wrong.
Yeah, I needed to make some sort of change.
And even that was maybe.
Right?
Maybe the suicidal thoughts, I need help. And the beauty part is your daughters will never have to get there. They're already operating from it because you are transformation.
Yes. Well, it's always a process. I mean, I'm always but I want to be different. And that's the goal. We're never going to be to the point of oh yeah, it's finished. We're done. I'm done working on myself. It's going to be an entire life process, right? Oh, yeah. And then as soon as we work on something and we heal something in our inner child, there's something pops up. And the more in tune you get with your inner self and with your spirit, you just know that it's great because you become more transparent with yourself. And you're like, man, maybe I have an issue with this. And we all have issues. Yes. That's the whole point, is that people don't realize that none of us are without issues. So people always tell me, oh, life's hard. Well, yeah, it can be hard. But I always looked at it there's always somebody going through more than me. Always. And so that's how I always coped with life. I'm like, man, I got hard. My life was hard, but what is your hard? There's kids dying in the hospital of cancer. That's hard. There's some real, and I always, right? But there's other people that are going through so much more than us. And I listen to people complain about and bitch about their little daily problems. I mean, man, shut up. Shut up. Suck it up. When I really put things into perspective, we're blessed. Yeah. We're blessed. We live in the United States. We're blessed. There's people in other countries that will never live on our worst day. Mm-hmm. Our worst day is never going to be someone's best day, And I
always say that first thing upon waking. Yes. I'm like, today's the best motherfucking day of my life.
I always hear you saying that. Yes, girl.
Really? Why? I go,
oh, that's right.
because God put me on the wake up list.
And we woke up.
I was on God's wake up list.
Yes.
You were.
People didn't wake up today.
Yeah, honey, so this is your best day too. And yes. That's a good way to look at it.
They don't get it. It doesn't click. But you know what? That's where change comes from, is being grateful. Mm-hmm. And so when I get into a funk of because we all do, we're human, right? We have our moments. It's up and down every day. Oh, yeah. So never, me too. I'm all over the place. So it's never just across the board. I'm happy every day. No, it's something you have to sometimes pull out of yourself, but it all comes, I start just being the things that we're grateful for. Water, we're breathing air, oxygen.
That comes down to your habits. Those habits that you take every day is what keeps us there. You have those habits, and that's how come you have the tools.
Well, you have to listen to Dr. Joe Dispenza because he's amazing. But he's talking about energy and the power within your brain.
I would love to go to
I would go with you.
Retreats. Okay,
yes, amazing. Oh my gosh, no, I'm serious. Yes. Oh my gosh, and you know what? He talks about how when you start being grateful, because he literally does brain scans when he's like working on people. So they like attach you to like a brain scan, and there's like proven facts that like when you start being grateful, when you start like it just changes something. The cortisol in your brain, it is just released. Like, and your blood pressure, your heart rate is low. It's calm. It's being grateful and having gratitude is the key to change. So if anybody's out there who's struggling with their life, start with being grateful. When I meet people and then I know they're in a bad spot, I'm like, name 10 things you're grateful for. And you know what? They put people on the spot, but they can't even freaking name 10 things. They're at first like, what do you mean? I'll even ask like Uber drivers and shit.
You know what it is? It's they enjoy being miserable.
Yes.
So when you tell
what's
them,
addiction? You're addicted to being miserable.
So when you ask them what are 10 things to be grateful for, it's almost insulting.
They're like, what? What do you mean?
It's insulting. Like what?
Yeah.
You want me to not be a victim?
Yes. And then they wonder why they're miserable.
I only know how to be a victim.
Yes.
Yes, they
absolutely.
don't know any other role than victimhood because it gets the attention they want.
Yep, absolutely. So agree. So like it's different when you, but you know what? It makes people think, and then they're like, okay, and they start. And like I have my little grandson do it too. Yes. So it's at a young age because sometimes when like he's in a enraged state or like he's just acting out, and I'm like, or he's crying, and I'm like, name 10 things, and I do the same thing to myself. I'm like, okay, in my mind, I'm like, okay, I need to be grateful. There's so many things, and my list is so long, but it takes, I feel like the more you practice, gratitude, that change just naturally comes. Your energy changes immediately.
Instinctively, my daughter and I, we have a word for this. We call it shifting.
Yes.
Okay, and we learned it from Anthony Robbins, and there's this thing where you got to pick a power move. Okay?
Right.
So people are like punching, people are clapping, stomping their feet, whatever your power move is. You pick a power move and then you put attention behind it. Right.
Yes.
So what my daughter and I do to each other, because we both want to be and operate at our highest vibration or frequency. So that is our commitment every day.
Yes.
So she has permission whenever I'm flipping out, whenever I'm throwing a fit, whenever I'm bitchy, whenever I'm on edge, she has permission to literally look at me and say, shift.
Right.
Now that means
that's powerful though.
Yeah. Deanne Marlene Munoz, I made a commitment to serve God. I made a commitment to be in my highest frequency.
Right.
So that means it don't matter if I just caught my man in bed with another girl. If my daughter tells me shift, that means I'm going to shift my energy because it's a commitment.
But do you ever notice that like now that you're different and this is your energy, that things don't bother you?
Oh, 100%.
Like I used to be so bothered. Like everybody around me I'd be bothered by this and angry about this, and if I was dating somebody and we broke up, I'd be this devastated. We start to really
love is my kryptonite.
Yeah, but you really start to realize that like we become addicted to other people. You lose yourself. Like, and not that you shouldn't be sad about certain things. There's a lot of people in this world who have sad situations.
No, I've been heartbroken. Yeah. But I'm still walking the fuck away.
Yes, but you know what? You're able to shift your energy.
Oh yeah. Okay. So
I love it.
So the thing is like this. So and then it turns funny because she literally shifts, and I'm stubborn when I'm angry or when I'm on one. Like I'm like,
you're a Taurus.
Yeah,
you're a Taurus.
Nobody could flip me out of it.
Yeah.
Other than if I hear the word shift.
Well, it's powerful to me to hear it. I've ever that checks your soul.
No,
like,
and I'll literally be like, I did make a commitment. So we go. So this is the shift. The move is. We put our hands on our knees and we shake our tushy and we put our hands and we go, shit.
And then you're like, okay, I'm good.
No, and by the time your hands get up here, everyone starts laughing.
Yeah. So it breaks myself,
and I've shifted my energy.
Amazing.
And it literally, it's in 3 seconds every time.
Yes.
So since then, like even if I'm dating somebody, like obviously like everyone knows the word shift now. So now we're able to all support each other now.
Right.
So
right.
Sometimes, like, if I'm angry with somebody I'm dating, they'll be like, shift. And I'm like, fucking motherfucker.
Like, I don't want to shift right now.
Fucking kick
I want to shift. Can we wait 10 minutes? I'm going to be pissed. Like, literally, right?
I'd be like, bam, shift.
Yeah.
Okay,
can I have a chance to freak out? Because sometimes it feels good, you know? Like, yeah, but it is, I totally get it. That's amazing,
That's our little thing. And this morning, too, I'd had the coffee. I hadn't ate yet. And I was trying to do 10 things at one time. And I wasn't going, none of it. I literally burned 3 tortillas, and I was trying to film a video. I was trying to do this.
That'd be me.
And I literally got like snappy, and instantly my daughter said, "Don't you even bring that energy, like shift." And I said,
"I love it."
Shift.
And she's like, okay, now it's goofy.
I took my burrito in the other room and I was like, all mad.
No, but it's like that's what people don't realize. So it's never like just, oh yeah, you have this great energy and things are beautiful 24/7, you know? It's like, but it's knowing that you need to shift. It's knowing that your energy's off, and it's catching ourselves at those moments and making new habits. Like you said, you're used to being that's me. I was, like I said, throwing things. I'd be angry at the world, and life was unfair, and I was a victim, you know? And you know, at the minute that you shift out of the victim mode and you start recognizing when you're playing the freaking victim, man, you can't be successful at all in life or happy or in a good place playing a victim.
Exactly.
Period. You know, so that's the least place that we want to be. We want to be the farthest away from playing the victim for sure.
Okay, so since we got off topic,
I know.
like, beautiful women. Okay, so you're in school, adopted.
Fighting.
Now, when you found out, like, what age were you when you found out you were adopted?
I don't really remember an age. I remember always knowing that I was adopted.
And what did that make you feel? What did that make you feel?
I mean, I don't think it really made me feel any certain type of way. I don't even know if I was really
just
curious.
Like normal?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it felt normal.
Okay with it. Okay.
Except for the point that, like, I was always so different. So, like, from my friends in school, it was always very different. So, like, the black sheep.
Yeah.
The bad seed, whatever you want to call it, like, just different. Like, obviously, I was fighting in school.
Okay, got in trouble, started fighting.
I would fight just because I stick up for people.
Yeah. I am such a protector.
That's me.
I'm such a protector too.
Absolutely. So don't mess with my friends or don't mess with me because I will fight you, you know? And so I would get like, you know, suspended from school, you know, but I was up. My mom was like, why are you fighting? You know, my mom was so different. Yeah. My adopted mom was like, well, she's my mom. Yeah. That's all I know. She's my mom. So she's so opposite from me.
Yeah.
So
my mom's the same way, very just loving.
Yeah. Very so like, walk away. Like, why are you mad? I'm like, I'm bothered, you know? So I always was different. So I always explain it like, oh, I was in a room full of people, but never felt like I fit in, you know? So as a young teenager, in junior high, I started slowly going towards, you know, the wrong people. I don't know if they're the wrong people. They were the right people for me at the time.
There's other people that were probably felt like the outsiders.
Yeah, people who didn't have families, in and out of juvenile, you know, people, you know, doing crazy things. And so I fit in with that crowd really quick.
I feel so comfortable around crazy people.
Yeah, me too, because I'm crazy.
So like, let's say like I had to go to a seminar with like white ladies with business suits.
No, I'm the same way. You feel like weird?
I really feel out of place.
Me
I'm
too.
just like I can't curse. I can't talk about dicks or penises. Like
it's because they don't, because you have your
anything
past
crazy.
and they don't, and they have a different past.
Such different
and I'm the same way because I have a past, so I'm still that person, but yet I've evolved into a new person, right?
Today I could do that, but
you don't feel like they understand you, or you're just you're crazy, like, but in a good way, like you know.
Put me in a room with alcoholics, you know, recovered alcoholics,
hey, like laughing, and you're
the best time,
right?
Like you said, like we all understand,
right.
The vibrational frequency of like just being What would be the frequency of where I want to say we're the chosen ones, because we're the ones that won't walk the path that everyone else walks.
Right. Well, you have to be a little crazy to be successful. Absolutely.
And Steve Jobs has that quote: "If you think you can change it, it's the crazy ones who can change the world." He says, "If you think you can change the world,
because you have the thought that you could actually create it, right?
You can." And he's like, and it's the crazy ones who believe they can.
Yes.
Who actually make the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was like, that's me, Steve.
You can't just be that average, because I feel like average people are doing, like, I would never like, oh yeah, I have a family and I'm doing the 9 to 5 and I'm coming home and my husband works at the post office and we're going to sit down and have dinner together. Like, I'm crazy. Like, I never had a schedule. Like, I just go with the flow. Fly by the seat of my pants, like very unpredictable. I will be booking, I'll be like, you know, on a plane, booking my hotel at a resort, like, and they're like, you don't have a hotel? I'm like, no, we're gonna have a hotel before we land, though. Hopefully we have Wi-Fi, right? Like, but I vibe like that, and it works for me.
Adventurous.
But people think I'm crazy. And I've been doing this. I'll be like on my way to nationals with the girls when they were younger at Tip for Dance, booking the hotel. They're like, you don't have a hotel yet? I'm like, not yet. I'm gonna get one though. You know, like it always works. So like,
that's
like,
a long time.
Yeah, I can't be planning ahead. I'm not one of those. Oh, we have appointments, and now I have to be like that a little bit more with my son, of course. But it's hard for me me to live that scheduled, normal American life. That's never been me. So I totally understand. Like I'd be in a room full of people and never fit in. So like, and like, that's when I go to like business conferences, it's different. It's very different. And people don't take me serious. They don't take me serious as a business. Well, it's still like a lot of men don't take women serious. They will like, my daughter will be with me at business conferences and she'll be explaining like what we do and how far we've come. And men are like, they'll cut her off. They'll cut her off. Like, and they'll want they're trying to get my number, you know? And I'm like, they don't take me serious as a businesswoman. And I don't play when it comes to business. This is like, I'm passionate, right? Yeah. But it's hard because it's not the average American woman, right? Yeah. Like it's different. I think we're average, but I don't know. Everybody else has a different view of what's normal and what's not.
I think I'm normal.
Yeah, no, literally, right? I'm like, oh, everybody else is weird, like, right? So
I feel like everyone else drink Kool-Aid.
Yeah, yes.
Like y'all are on Kool-Aid. I'm not on the Kool-Aid.
Right?
That's
so,
why
but when you're at a higher calling, you go through a lot more shit to get there. Absolutely. Definitely. That's what makes you passionate and crazy. Yeah. You can't just live a normal life and go through minimal trials and tribulations and then be like super passionate, right? Because it's in those valleys, in those places of darkness that we find that there's a higher mountaintop somewhere else, right? Definitely. So like you can't just live like on the plains and be like, oh yeah, my life was great and very normal. And then that you don't find those type of people super passionate about life. The people who are super passionate have been through a lot of shit, right?
Those are the chosen ones.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, we came in, we incarnated on this lifetime and we said, God, I want to be a chosen one, or God, you know, I want to be a leader. I want to be motivated. You know, I want to be a healer. And God said, okay, well, just so you know, Sari, like, you know, I'm going to put you through this lifetime through hell so that when you gain your superpowers, you can change the world. But you have to go through the valley of death first. Right. And that's the thing about chosen ones is we are the ones who said, bring it on. Bring it on. Right. You put me on the darkest depths of hell. Yes. I made it through last time. I'll do it again. And we made it through.
But that's what makes you so resilient to not give up. Because most people give up. Most people don't want to fight the fight. They're like, oh, I just give up. My life is the victim. Yeah. Right? Right? But they're, oh my goodness, my life is so tough. Like, I couldn't pay my rent last month and I'm still here crying about it. Right? Like, things happen. People are going through hard shit. Yeah. But there's a lot of people who are doing the most, you know, like, which is amazing.
Okay, so now you're in high school. What's going on?
So I'm like wild at this point. So like, I don't even know if I went to high school. Oh, okay. I didn't show up for high school. Oh, okay. I like was skipping high school. Well, I started like partying, you know, like back then there wasn't drugs though. Like we weren't like really big in it. No, there wasn't. It was crazy. I think it was like more like 20 when I was like 24 because I'm 49 now. Yeah. So I was born in 75. So when I was in junior high, I don't remember really. I mean, no, like
me neither. That was
really bad weed, like that Mexican dirt weed, right? Like, yes, there wasn't anything fabulous. Not like today. Oh my gosh, today is crazy with the drug scene. But so I wasn't really. But I was, you know, partying, drinking a lot, and then so I started hanging out with the wrong people, and those people were people who were frequently in juvenile. So I started like stealing cars. I have crazy.
Wait, now question with that. What it's interesting. I'm crazy, but I'm such a scaredy cat because I remember
I was never scared. That was my whole problem.
That's why I'm saying like you were
no.
Was it adrenaline high or what
I don't even know what it was. I feel like I was listen. One time I was with some of my homies, the homeboys or whatever, and it was like there was like we were with three of them, and we were stealing a car off a car lot. And they didn't want to drive. Well, of course, I'll drive. Like, I don't care. Like, I just didn't care. Like, but that's what we were talking about. That's why you know what I mean? Like, you carry that with you, but you learn to use it in the right way. Yeah, but when I was younger, it wasn't like I was trying to fit in. I just didn't care. Like, I was very, very rebellious. So, and I always say this, if I'm going to do something good or bad, I'm going to do it to the extreme. So that's why I feel like I worked good with my company. You know, I'm like, I don't do things half-ass. Ever. You know, no, I'm going to do it. And I'm like, when I was working out and training at the gym, I'm going to do it because I'm going to be there twice a day, every day, 7 days a week, right? Like, I'm an extremist. So, but that's also a bad thing. So when I'm being really bad, I was bad. It's off. Yeah, I was really off. So I don't do it just kind of, you know, most of the girls at that time that I hung out with, they were like, they're at home, they're scared. They weren't doing. So I was with these guys, they were crazy. They didn't have good homes. They'd already been in and out of juveniles. So like we would just steal cars, do crazy, stupid things. Like I don't even know why. Get in high-speed chases with the police, go to juvenile. And so I was in and out of the juvenile system my entire, you know, from the time when I was like 14 to 18. On my 18th birthday, I was released.
Okay, being in the juvenile system, like what? Explain a little bit what that is. I don't think people know what that is.
Well, the juvenile system is, it's back then it was a little more relaxed, I want to say, than it is now. But it's like, it's like prison for juveniles. So you actually go to, it's a little easier, I think.
It's like camp, right?
Yeah, it's like camp. Well, it's actually like a mild prison.
Yeah.
It's not as, you can, have visitors. At that time, it was visiting in person. Well, when you go to prison, you can visit in person too. So it's very similar, but it didn't bother me. I wasn't bothered by it. Like I had a good time. So the more you go to jail or juvenile, like you meet people in there and you find more bad influences on your life, and you're already bad too. So like you just kind of mesh together and you become, a little more rebellious and more wild. So kind of it was like, and I was wild too. I don't blame anybody for what I did. I made my own choices. No one held a gun to my head to make these poor choices. I chose to do these things. Right. But I was always really wild. So I even like hung out and I ran away with like the pastor's daughter, and I went all the way to Dallas, Texas. And this is when I lived in Washington State.
Wow. Okay.
So like, and my parents actually got kicked out of a church because of me. So I was raised in church.
I got kicked out of church.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay. So you feel me. That's great. Everybody's like, you got kicked out of church. I asked my parents to leave, my family to leave. My parents were very involved in church.
I got asked to leave too.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah. So we were Lutheran, and so we were going, and so they're very, it's kind of very similar to Catholic. Yeah. And so, but we would go, and I would go to confirmation. They're like, ask me to leave. They're like, I'd be hungover in church. Bless it. But,
the devil, the demon, the devil
like,
has
this girl
arrived.
is no good. And I was always kind of the one, like, leading it on, So, but, they always say the girls in church, the pastor's daughters, are sometimes the most rebellious, I think like they're being tempted a lot more at a higher level. So that was always my lifestyle. So I was just wild. And the more you're wild, the more like I said, I was good at being bad.
So being in juvenile, right? That's for any teenagers or children under the age of 18.
Right.
So it did nothing to rehabilitate you, to shift your mindset?
No, not at all. Because I was a very stubborn person. It was very hard too. The more that you're into that lifestyle, I don't know about you, but I became a hard, cold-hearted person. Okay. So I'm not so sweet. I wasn't so much the Pisces anymore, like very forgiving. I was very hardened. My parents had me in therapy. I would just sit there and just stare. I'm like, I'm not hearing anything this woman's saying, and I was in therapy for years. They were trying to find out. They tried to help me. They had me in treatment centers. In between the juvenile stays. I did two sentences of like juvenile prison before 18.
Okay. Right now, if there's a mom and dad watching that they have a troubled teen, what advice would you give them to support them to, I don't know, help their child? I mean, I don't know what we would do for somebody like that. Because you said you're in the depths of like,
well, you know what? I feel like it comes with understanding. There's so many parents who feel like, oh, my child needs to go to therapy. No, you need therapy too. Just saying, because you know what? We have to be in tune with our children. It's the same thing as energy. Yeah. Like, and so many of these kids, like it's a lot in public schools. So there's so much influence. These parents need to understand there's so much pressure and temptation on these kids. I mean, kids are doing drugs and dying of overdoses at 15, 13. It's crazy nowadays. And it was happening then. But I feel like so many parents have the biggest egos, and the ego is not our friend. The ego is the enemy, right?
Ego is not our amigo.
No, and so we need to put the ego away as parents and really humble ourselves to understand and get on the same level. And maybe your child's hardened, like I said, I was hard. Like I didn't want to hear anybody. They want to be told once you get to a certain hard spot, it's hard to reach you, right? So, but I feel like if you really are in tune and you listen to your child and spend time with them, even forceful, you know what I mean? Make your children come out of their room. I didn't let my children, parents do lazy parenting.
What is your love language? When you
acts of service.
So
all day, every day.
When you were young too, at that time?
I don't know what my love language would have been then, because
I heard you say spend time.
Yes.
So that made me almost kind of think, I wonder if at that time if they would have, like you said, just spend time, they would have spent more time with you.
Well, I always had the average family, but I feel like they wanted to send me to therapy and they didn't want to make any adjustments. I feel like even if the parents aren't wrong, obviously, if the child's being rebellious, drinking, partying, whatever, but we need to be in tune with our children, know what they're doing. Yeah. And so many people are like, they're so tired by day-to-day life. Yeah. You know, they're like, get home, well, I'm tired. It's work, and it's exhausting to be a parent at times who is really in tune with their children, you know, because it's more work to know what they're doing. Yeah. You know, but so many parents are so ignorant, like they're blind to it because they don't want to know. Know what your kids are doing. Know what they're doing online. Know who they're talking to. Yeah. Know, because there's a lot of things that go on that you don't even know about. So like, I feel like, and kids shouldn't have like the social media. It's toxic. I think too much social media, they're looking at false shit, you know, like, oh, all these women, and they, you know, they're not really looking at what real life is. It's important that we know what's going on with our kids. So I feel like a lot of it, my parents didn't even know. And it's sad though, too. They didn't purposely, they just, back then, they didn't know how to deal with me. Like I said, they were completely opposite of me. They were like church, you know, very, you know, my dad was involved with the church. My grandma was a pastor. So they were I was raised Pentecostal too. So we went from,
I was too.
Yeah, we went from Lutheran church, absolutely, very, very charismatic. Yeah. You know, into Pentecostal church. So like it was, you know, they've never been in trouble with the law. They've never been alcoholics, drug addicts, never been involved with crime. I mean, that wasn't their lifestyle. So they were like almost overwhelmed with me. Like, what do we do with her? Yeah. Right. Like I have this child and we love her and we chose her. We brought her home with us. But, you know, at one point they were telling, my dad had somebody he worked with telling him to give me back. Like, why don't you just give her back? And I don't even know if that's possible. Do you give somebody back? I don't know. But like, yeah, like you give her back. You know, because I was causing so much. Because my parents had my back. Yeah. They would hire attorneys for me when I'd be in trouble. They'd bail me out. They would do the most for me. But a lot of it too, like parents, like enabling your child, know what that is. Like we have to educate ourselves. Okay. You know, on what's healthy boundaries, what's healthy family roles. You know, I meet a lot of parents. They're like, oh, my child would never, and my child, and like. Your child's probably the worst, right? Like so open your eyes. Don't be ignorant. Like open your eyes to reality of what's going on. And those are sadly, like sometimes these kids, they overdose or they don't like, I didn't even know my child was doing drugs. Yeah. We have to know what our children are doing at all times.
Yeah. And I think that's like you said, for parents that have never been through any kind of addictions, they wouldn't even know
to see this, right? We were just talking, the signs.
I could tell my daughter once, I picked her up from like a little party or quinceañera something. And the minute she got in the motherfucking car and looked in my eyes, I was like, motherfucking little bitch. She was on one. I didn't know what it was, but she was on something. And I was like in the car. There's a whole bunch of her friends are in there. And then a couple of my friends were in the car too. And I was just like, fucking fuming, right? And then her friend, she tried to say something to me, and she was slurred. Oh, she wasn't drunk. It wasn't drunk slurred. It was some kind of slur. I think it was like ecstasy or something. Yeah. And then her friend,
she's probably tripping out.
Yeah. And her friend was like, shh, quiet, don't say nothing. And I said, I can hear both of you, and just wait till you get home. And my friends were like, what are you talking about? I was like, shut up! Don't even look at me either. Yeah, because they couldn't tell because they're not drugged. But I
you could see it from her eyes. You could see, and yeah.
And I was texting her dad. I was like, "This little fucking bitch thinks I don't fucking know. She's not a fucking good one. She got me fucked up. Wait till we fucking get home right now." I was fucking. I love it. But there's nothing I could do. I also didn't want to ruin her trip. Do you know what I mean? Because there's nothing than having a bad trip and then you're in a fucking hallucinogenic panic. Yes. So I was just like, you're lucky I'm going to give you this free high, bitch. Right. And the next day I was like, I think I got grounded her for the rest of the school year. The rest of the whole entire
work too. When you're a parent and you're like actually being a real parent and you're enforcing rules, it's work for us. We're being punished too. That's why people get like, okay, you can have your phone back because I need you to answer your phone, right? Like, so I would always threaten that. I'm the worst at that. I'd be like, I'm going to take your phone away for a month. And I take it and I'm like, the next day I'm like, well, actually she really needs her phone because I can't reach her. Like, you know, I'm like, see, that's my Pisces, the forgiving,
and then the fact that they're with us 24/7, you're like, I just need a break.
Yeah, I need a break.
Go to your friend's house, go.
So real parenting and being a real parent involved with a child is work. It's work. It's taxing. I feel
like my teenage years. What was my hardest times with her?
Yeah. Well, yes. I mean, that's when kids are going through so much. And I have a 15-year-old. My youngest, Maya, is 15, and I love her so much. But I have noticed, because I feel like she was kind of going through something. She was a couple years ago, like about a year and a half ago. And I freaked out on her. I'm crazy too. I'll be like, I'll break your phone with a hammer. And I go off. I'm crazy at me. Don't play. Like, I'll be like, and I'm stomping on it and throwing it in the toilet. And like, I'm doing the most. Everybody's looking at me like, she's fucking crazy. I'm like, yeah, I'm crazy. I'll be taking off the door and like, get the fucking door. Like, I'm like, I go out. I go extra. And when I'm like that, it's like nobody's like, they're like, they're like, don't even want. Don't make eye contact.
I feel children have to. I'm so against this gentle parenting. I feel children need to fucking fear mom and dad. Like they need to fear, not be like, mom's a fucking joke.
Okay, well, how many people do you see out like where these at the like the nail shop, whatever, like when we're like and they're just back talking and talking trash on the mall to their moms, and I'm like, I would slap the shit out of my child. Like you're talking, I can't, because I could tell you're not. Like I don't play.
Me neither.
Like so, like you have to be. There has to be a certain level of crazy where your child. They know when I'm mad. They know what's up. Like they respect me, you know. So they're like, okay, mom's mad. Let's back up slowly. Don't make eye contact. She's like, disagree. You know, they already know me. But you know, yes, your children have to have some sort of fear.
I totally think
yes.
that.
So
okay, so back to now. How do we get to prison?
So when I got out of juvenile, I'm 18. I quickly got pregnant with my first daughter. Was not ready to have a child. Had my daughter, and then I went back to jail. For stealing another car, like an idiot. Okay. So I'm still
now. Are you stealing them to sell them, make money, or you're just going on for fun rides?
Just like fun rides and shit. Like we'd be like, we'd be like, okay, well I'm gonna be.
And is it because you didn't have a car, or were these?
I had a car, so my mom always took my car away from me. See, we're talking about like I even I had a friend he hot wired my own car. Fucked it all up
so you could take it.
Yes. And I was like, you're grounded. We're taking your car for 6 months. And I'm like, well, I'm going to get the fucking car. I was crazy.
Yeah.
And one time I took my parents' car. This is horrible. And I would run away. I would run away, but I wouldn't run away in town, like where or in the same city. I would run to, like, I lived in Washington at the time. I'd run to Dallas, Texas. I made it all the way to Texas, girl, with the pastor's daughter. Like literally, this is funny. Yeah. So
was it like a road trip in the stolen car?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And just like we would be, it's crazy. Like, yes.
And how are you getting money?
Well, we would ask people at rest stops, like, hey, do you have money? We ran out of gas. Like, and back then it was different because you don't see, now you don't trust people. You're like, yeah. So people would feel bad. Like, okay, really we would like, and literally we made it all the way to Texas. And from Washington, that's like a 5-day trip.
Yeah.
It's not like, So, or I would run away. Like I ran away one time to Oakland. And I was hanging out with some Jamaican, I was in they were married. Like, this is weird. I know. I told my daughters, they're like, you ran away to Oakland. And then we left there. So I was with a friend who I met in juvenile prison, the institution. And I actually ran right when we got out. I'm like, we're out of here. Let's go. We already had a plan when we were getting released. We're like, and that was when the first time. So I was like, and I was on parole. You're not supposed to leave. So we got to Oakland. We meet these guys, and they're way older. I'm young, and thank God nothing ever happened to me. This is how God has been really watching out for me, literally. Because there's so I would never, because you hear so many scary stories. People get raped, human trafficking. Thank God, I've had a calling on my life.
Yeah,
he was always really, really watching out for me. Because I was doing the most.
God was like, well, you fucking listen.
Yeah, well, you get it. And he's like, this is all part of my plan. She's really messing up for years. Literally, I'm like, no one ever thought I would get it together, Yeah. So I'm still being bad. So and then after my friend was like, I'm bored here. Let's go somewhere else. So she had friends in what is it, Salinas and Monterey. Yeah. So she's like, and she's like, let's go there. So there's a military base right there.
Okay.
So we were like, oh, honey, we need to take showers. You don't want to run away. You got to take a shower. And I'm a girl. I got to take a shower. So we met some guys that were on this military base. We're young, mind you, these men.
You could go back to their rooms.
So we broke into a abandoned military, the barrack things, and we were showering. And then here come the freaking military with their huge rifles and shit and arresting us at gunpoint.
Holy moly.
Yes. So that time, my parole officer flew down to get me, shackled me up, and I flew back on a plane to go back to Washington. Yeah. And so now I'm back in trouble again. I was always doing great.
How old were you at this point?
I was 15, 16. Okay. No, I was 16. I was 16 at this time. Yeah, 16. probably almost 17. So then that's when I went back the second. Okay, I got charged again. Thank God they actually didn't charge me on the military base because I could have got trespassing. I mean, you're not like on government property, right? So they were like, we're not going to charge you this time, but I got, parole violations, had to go back. Yeah. So it was constantly in the system. But I was always, when I was younger, like especially before I was 18, I was always doing crazy shit. Like I would like tuck and roll out my mom's car. She'd be like, you're coming home with me. Cause my mom's like Christian, like, what are you doing drinking? And I'm like, I'm not going home. I'm going out. Like I'd be like literally tuck and roll. I don't know how I made it through all these. They'd be like, you tucked it. Yes, I had a moving car. Like my mom's like, and she's like, okay, I'm not going back for her. Let her go. So I would call my friends. They would come back. Well, back then that's when you had to go find a phone. You didn't have you had a beeper, you had a pager. Right? Like dating myself, but yes, literally. So but a lot of I have crazy stories before I was 18. So then I get out, I have my first daughter. So yes, so then but I didn't actually steal the car. So I was in a stolen car.
Okay.
And then we get in a high-speed chase. So, and then the guy who's driving is like 15.
Okay, oh God. Okay, I've always wanted to ask this question. When I watch highway speed chases, I'm so intrigued. I'm like, I need to ask this motherfucker. Do you think you're gonna escape the cop?
I think you do. I think in your mind is delirious because you're already a criminal, so you're doing stupid shit anyway. And they really think it's interesting to watch them. No, and sometimes they do get away.
No, and I always think do they really think they're gonna get? What do you think?
But I've seen people get away. Have you seen the one where he hops out and there's a motorcycle started waiting for him, and he hops on this ninja, and he literally gets away.
Oh well, yeah, you're the motorcycle, you're set.
But who put the motorcycle in the middle of the fucking road? He's still a tow truck, no? Yeah, I was like, okay, that was interesting. And I don't like the news because I feel like the news is a propaganda, so I don't really watch it. But my mom and dad will have it on, so I'll come down to the kitchen and they're there and they love the news. And I'm like, no, it's you shouldn't. It's absolutely, absolutely. So, but I'll hear it and I'm like, this is crazy. There's people, but you know what? I have gotten away from the police. I have driven. When I told you I stole the car off of the car lot. That time I did get away from the release, but later that night I got arrested in Tacoma, Washington. So I didn't get away for too long.
Yeah.
But literally I was the driver, so I waited for the officer to come up to the window, and they're like, okay, right when he gets to the window, go, go, go. So I'm like, okay. Yeah. So I go. I do I do it was maybe 4 or 5 miles.
Yeah.
I'm busting a left and then we hit the lights, and I was biggest adrenaline rush ever, right? And we made it, and they flew by. And I remember people talking shit. So when I got arrested, and then they brought me back to the same city because I was in a different county.
Yeah.
And they were talking shit, I guess, to the sheriff because he didn't catch me, and I'm a young girl. At that time, I was 15. Yeah. Yeah. That's how I learned how to drive, is because I took my dad's car. Oh my gosh, the first time I got in trouble. My poor dad. Sorry, Dad. He knows. Now he's I learned to drive a standard,
stick shift.
Yeah. I would roll off the freeway, but I ran away from Washington, and I was at the Chula Vista border. So I was almost crossing into Mexico, and we get arrested. But yeah, so that's how I literally learned how to drive. So I was driving myself around before I was 15. I was driving myself to, So I was always doing the most. Still doing the most, but legally, you know?
I love it.
So then so now sorry, I'm all over the place. You could tell.
Okay.
This is me. But,
I'll bring you back.
Okay. So now I'm older, and, I went to jail for, I think it was 9 months in county jail. My daughter's 6 months. I lose custody of my daughter. My parents got temporary custody, which, pretty sure I deserved it at that point. I wasn't being responsible.
Yeah.
But that's what started making it hard, is being incarcerated with a child, but I wasn't ready to have a child. I see now when I look back, and I look at these young moms, and I'm like, man, no wonder it's hard to be a parent when you're not ready. Yeah. Right? It's hard to parent and parent in a good space.
And having an abortion wasn't an option for you?
Well, not that time. I had an abortion when I was younger.
Okay.
So when I was younger, I did have an abortion.
Yeah.
But and I don't really have any regrets. I was young. I did things happen, and I look at people bothered by certain things. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you have to let things go and keep it pushing. So we can't live with. So yeah, I did have an abortion prior to that. So this time I was no, I'm not going to. I'm going to have this baby. Even though I wasn't ready. Yeah. But my mom was always very nurturing, because my mom could never have children. So she's kind of like in a different way, like enabling, like, I'll just take the baby. I'll take care of her. So it's kind of was a long story, but wasn't a healthy relationship. But she did help me. My parents helped me with my oldest daughter.
Good.
So, and then so after I get out of jail that time, I kind of was like trying to get it together, you know, like, but it was like, I wasn't doing the most to like really, but you know, I was working and like trying to be, you know, a parent. I was still living with my parents. They would help me with her. I was in and out of like, I tried college, wasn't really the best for me. Like I was like, can't even focus on this. Like I'm not good at college, just all due respect. So anybody who could do all of the homework, blessings to you. That's props to you, right? It's not me. So, and I know that. So, and then shortly after that, I met my first husband and I got pregnant with and you know, in the beginning of that relationship, he was super abusive. So he would just get mad and hit me for whatever reason, you know? So, and I would fight back. But he's a man, he's stronger than me and he beat the shit out of me, literally. And so, I actually, got pregnant with my son and I decided to, you know, like to get it together. So I never like partied when I was pregnant though. So the minute I find out I was pregnant, I would like, you know, if it was a month, you know, or 3 weeks, I would stop my shit, you know, like partying, drinking, because I like to party. I love to drink. I was always drinking. I would stop and I would just be like, try to be the best, you know, temporary, like, you know, but I knew that wasn't okay. And that was never like you can't be drinking and with being pregnant, you know, it's not the best, you know, interest for your child. So, but shortly after I was pregnant with my son, I was about 3.5, almost 4 months. I had one of the ultrasounds, like the regular ultrasounds, and I always had high risk pregnancies with all of my children. Okay. And they found out that, well, they said in the first one, so it was actually a little bit earlier than that. They said, oh, we see something different with the heart. And I was young. I didn't even know that these things even happen, that people were born or babies were, I had no clue. So,
we didn't see it.
Yeah. And then, so they're like, well, we need you to come back. We're going to do, you know, have a cardiologist do a heart, you know, the ultrasound and take a closer look.
Oh, in the stomach?
Yes.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like I was going to Portland and I went to my doctor and I had this appointment and she stops and it's kind of like one of the worst days of my life. I feel like at that moment, your heart just drops. They tell you, oh, your child has a severe heart defect. And the defect that my son had was basically at that time, back then, they're like, he's not going to live. And he definitely wasn't going to live without open heart surgery. So, and they were like, so we just, you know, that day they're like, they did amniocentesis, like they checked to make sure there was no chromosome problems or any, like a lot of kids with congenital heart defects have Down syndrome as well. It kind of couples with other issues, you know? So, and I remember just crying and he's like, I just encourage you to have an abortion. He wanted me to abort the baby. And I was like, I just can't, because I could feel my son moving. This is my second child. The baby's moving. I'm like, I don't want to, like, what if? There's so many what ifs, you know, like in life, what if?
There's a lot of what ifs because you're thinking, well, why would God give me this creation?
Yes.
You know, like if it wasn't meant to have it, then it would just,
And I was willing to bet that like, I want to try and see, like, no matter what, I wanted to make the effort. Like, what if I had an abortion, I wouldn't have my son and he's changed my entire life, you know? So I decided not to. So they're telling me, you know, they're watching me. It's a high risk pregnancy. I basically was on almost bed rest the entire time. You know, I had to be really cautious, doing tons of ultrasounds. Actually, when the baby's in the womb with a congenital heart defect, the heart function 100% because he's like, you know, the mother is providing, you know, the life support basically. Okay. So it's when the child is born though. So my son had to have open heart surgery, otherwise he would not have survived past 3 months. So then they told me exactly it would be like 3 months of age, somewhere around the time that he'd have to have open heart surgery. And that's a hard thing to go through as anybody. Oh my gosh. So there's parents out there like, oh my, it's, I used to not even be able to talk about this without crying. It's very, very close to my heart.
It's devastating.
Yes. Yeah. So, and then sending your baby, I remember putting my son in the car seat to take him to open heart surgery that day. It was so hard for me. Sorry. So see, it's still, you know, it was very hard for me. But I had, so these moments, of course, I'm adulting. I'm adulting. I'm growing up. And the way I dealt with my son's issue, his congenital heart defect, was I studied. I'm crazy like that. I study everything, like Google.
Yeah.
I was meeting moms like in support groups that had the same children. Yes. And that helped me cope.
Yeah.
You know? And so like I literally, when the surgeons took him, you know, they ask you, do we know what we're doing today to your son? You know how they ask you those things? You're like, yes, of course I do. I tell them the rundown. They're like, well, you really have no. I knew everything. I had studied and really I knew like that's helped me cope with it. You know, so here's this, my baby was like 5-6 pounds. He was tiny and they're doing open heart surgery. So here's this child and it's hard to see your child like that, you know? Sorry. And they're really cried on a podcast, but it's hard. So it's hard for someone to deal with their child being in that situation. You know, let's see your baby and they swell a lot after open heart surgery. They swell. So they look different, you know, and you just see your child. You're helpless. Yeah. You can't help your child.
Oh, helpless. That's the worst feeling as a parent.
Yes. Because you can't do anything. And so here he comes out of surgery and I'm there. I didn't leave, you know, and when I did leave, someone was with him 24/7 and I'd go to Ronald McDonald House and I would stay, you know, for a couple hours and try to sleep. I was a mess. I couldn't sleep. I was anxious, you know, I don't know how to explain all the emotions I'm going through at this time, you know, and then my son, 6 days post-op goes into cardiac arrest. So like I was in the room with him and he had this crazy nurse, like this nurse was so rude. And she was like, stop talking. You're irritating your son. They were trying to wean him off the vent at this time. So I don't know, like now I'm really familiar with all of these things, but he didn't look right. And I knew something was wrong. My intuition told me as a mother, something's not right with my child. And she was like, oh, and it wasn't 10 minutes I was there. His dad, my first husband, was there with him that night. And the next day when I passed him, he was leaving to go sleep and I was going in to be with my son, he's like, you're not going to like the nurse. Because I'm still very headstrong. If I believe in something, I'm gonna tell you what you know how I feel. And so he would tell me like, he told me you're not gonna like her. So I go into the room and like this is when she's telling me sit down, be quiet, you're irritating him. All the other nurses had me like be really involved with him. I was helping, you know, I was asking all questions and helping them bathe him and you know clean his mouth and all of these situations, you know. So and that helped me, like I said, cope with that situation. And so he goes into cardiac arrest when I'm in the room with my mom. So they're you know, they have the bag on him, they're resuscitating him and he's flatlining. So, and it's like this crazy, you know, you hear these bells and like, oh my gosh, call code. So they code, you know, it's like everything's happening so fast. Yeah. And time is like stopped. I don't know how to explain it. It's just like when you're watching your child and you can't do anything. You know, and so I'm like, what is going on? So finally they moved me out of the room because they need to have everybody in there. There's, all the whole heart surgeons, which is a whole team of people, the anesthesiologist, the actual cardiologist, everybody's in this room. There's like 20 people in the room and they're trying to revive this baby. And so they went to go call a code on him. And at this time I'm just praying. So I know like from my history, but I wasn't really close with God. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, because I had it shoved in my throat my entire life. I was like, no, I don't want anything. I was the farthest from being close to God at that moment, right? But at that moment, you know your instincts, like it all comes back like, okay, I'm going to pray. What do I have to lose? Nothing, right? Yeah. And everything to gain in this moment. And so they go to call him, actually, they're going to call him like deceased, right? They're going to call him like he passed away. So they look at the time and the anesthesiologist pulls out this tube and his little heart starts beating. His airway was blocked. It wasn't even anything to do with the heart. So it was human error.
Oh, holy fuck.
Yeah. Human error. Like, so my son, you know, so I didn't even know anything that could happen. Like when you were without oxygen, I'm young. I'm like, my mom's in the medical field too, but I didn't know, like, you don't know until you go through things or you have a family member or a friend or somebody that like this, you don't know. You don't know. And so I quickly learned, you know, my son was not, they're like, oh yeah, his eyes are responsive, you know, he's okay. And, but he wasn't okay. So he was very, you know, he would cry and he started screaming and you couldn't console him. You know, he would just scream and scream and I would hold him and he would just like do these movements. He just wasn't normal. He wasn't my son. He was my son, but he wasn't acting the way he did before I brought him to the hospital.
Right.
So, so he suffered an anoxic brain injury. So that's basically being without oxygen for a period of time. but kids are resilient, but the hospital, they're like, oh, he was there like 2 months at the hospital. And we knew that and it was hard for me to accept that there is going to be something wrong. They send you home like, oh, we'll send you home with neurologist, and you don't know what to expect. What's your future bringing, right? So, and that's what kind of started the long-term like medical issues for him, so, yeah. So I was going through all of this. Of course, I wasn't out partying. I wasn't out in the streets. I really was like,
real quick.
Absolutely. And I was at home for like the next year and a half. Like I literally held my son in a reclining rocking chair. They told me not to let him cry because they would put strain on his heart. It's a baby. Babies cry
all the time.
Yeah.
Stop.
Well, that's crazy. So I started making me obsessive compulsive. Like I would, and he couldn't get sick because he has, has all these things. So, like I became a germaphobe. Like I told you I do the most, right? I do the most. Like if you hear my stories about COVID, oh my gosh, like girl, chill out. Like I do the most. I'm extra with everything I do. So it made me crazy to a point because I'm protecting my son. I'm a protector. So you come in my house, if you're sick, no, get the hell out of here. Like I protected him as my child, and so, I did spend, and, my first husband, he was not a great, he was young, he wasn't interested. I think he really couldn't handle it. He couldn't handle it. He wasn't like my backbone. I didn't feel like I was like he was like off in a mess in the, hallway. And I like, a man needs to be a woman's backbone. Like everything's going to be okay. Reassure you, even if you don't know, the power of a man actually being a man and reassuring a woman is everything in life. Right? Like you need that to hear, even if they don't know, it feels good to hear that. Yeah. And so like my mom was always there though. My mom was still the Christian woman. Like they were going to pray. Like she's still very, religious. I mean, religious, whatever you want to call it, but she believes in God, so that was my power at that moment. And after like I had my, my son, I had this really good friend that worked with my mom at the hospital, but she's like this angel. Like she always was trying to minister to me, like come and like, but I was always like, like I was crazy. Like if I was in the hospital, it's because I was like on something or like I was a mess, like I was just, my life was running amok. Right. So I was running the farthest from God. And so she actually came to visit me. And at this moment, like it's like after he had the cardiac arrest, we don't know what to expect or what's going to happen. And she's like comes to share, God with me. And so that's when I got saved. So so it was like kind of a surreal moment. Like, I didn't really, because I always for years, I'm like, ugh. It's like you have to have your own timing and everything. We have our own timing and you can't force people to believe in God or to believe in a certain way. No, you got to show them and lead them by example and by love. You got to love on people at times in their worst. And so, but obviously God had his own agenda, right? So I'm with my son, they send me home with him. And then I was, like I spent all these time medical appointments, all of these things. But through some of that though, like to back up, when I was pregnant with my son, I actually was like 2 months pregnant. I caught a charge. Like, so I was actually being like looking at prison time at that point. Yes.
Holy fuck.
Yes. So I was like being charged with second-degree assault with a deadly weapon. The deadly weapon's a coffee mug, but it was still a deadly weapon. Yeah, they don't care what you use. Like, so, but I was going through, but like given that all these things and all these medical things start coming out about my son, the judge had grace for me. He literally, and so did the guy that we beat up. Like he really had grace. Like I think, and what, it all worked.
Was it like just like a drunk fight thing that got crazy, or was it premeditated?
No, it was. So my
premeditated is different.
Yeah. Well,
like
it was my first husband's sister was with this guy, and then they had broken up or something. I don't know the whole entire story, but he was a neighbor of them, right? Okay. And he had girls jump the sister, so the sister got jumped. So we were like, well, fuck that, and I was crazy. I told you I was crazy. So I was like, we're going to go inside his house. But we went inside his empty house because he wasn't home and waited for him to come home. And then my ex and I like jumped him. So like, not good. Yeah. So he went to the hospital and like he had, and that's not, I mean, like,
get him. Oh, sorry. Sorry.
So like, don't
do that.
So like, don't do that. So there's like big consequences for doing things like that. But so I was looking at a lot of times. So actually I was like on the run from the police in the first part. And this is, mind you, before I knew that my son had these things going on because I hadn't had the appointments. And so had I had known that all of these things, it probably wouldn't have been, but I was wild. you know, so I'm on the run from the police for several months.
So your son saved your life, probably.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, each one of my children played a part in saving my life, I felt like. Because there's been like moments where like I'm like, I get it together and I'm like, oops, no, I'm off, you know, and then I'm like, get it together. Oh, no, I'm a little falling off, you know. So until like, yeah, I think it's always, like we said, it's always a process. Yes. So, you know, so I'm pretty on track, but then I start to realize I'm at home and, you know, it's hard being a mom. Props to freaking moms who are raising children with special needs. And like, it's not easy. Or stepmoms or girlfriends or dads who are pulling that off. Like props to those. That's not an easy. And, you know, they always tell me like most marriages who have a special needs child end up in divorce. It's a lot of pressure. That's not why we ended up in a divorce. Yeah. You know, and that's not even why, but it's a lot of pressure because it's a different way of life and it's a lot of strain on somebody. It's not, it's hard, right? You know, like I don't like to use the word hard. It can be difficult. Yeah. You know, it's challenging. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's your life changes from night and day. Right. So, I ended up the third surgery. My son's 2 years old. His dad didn't show up to this open heart surgery. Girl, it's like they put the child on bypass. Like, they put the child on bypass, and adults don't survive surgeries, open heart. Like they stop your heart and they put it on bypass. So you're like, actually, there's a machine pumping the actual natural heart. They take the heart. I don't know if you ever watched open heart surgery. It's crazy.
No, I know nothing about it. I had no fucking idea.
Watch it sometime because it's crazy how they literally take the heart and they put it on a.
They have to keep it.
Yeah. Yes, and they have to break your sternum. So you know how you have the bone right here. So they crack it, and if you see it, they use this tool to break it open. That's how adults who go through, like they're literally cracking your bones open.
And this is a child. And this is a child.
Yes, it's a baby. And that's just the only way to access the heart. They were trying to do some, I think, from the side. They were doing experiments to try to enter from the side. Because what happens, though, and there's so many things I've learned, but with people who have multiple open heart surgeries, there's scar tissue that builds. So some people just bleed out by the time they've had multiple. So there's a limited number of surgeries a person can have. Because now they can't even get in. Could you imagine the scar tissue that it builds over time through the bone and the skin and the tissue? So actually to the people, and I don't know about now, don't quote me now, but this is back then, absolutely people did not. I think it was like 4 surgeries max that people could have. That may have changed. My son hasn't had. Thank God he hasn't had any more, you know? So his dad just decides not to show up. So he's in the streets partying and stuff. He just leaves me like completely there with his mom was always played the dad part, you know? Yeah. So I'm like, man, fuck him. I'm leaving him. Like, this is like, hello, that was my wake up call to leave him. Right. But I was still a very broken person. Like I was so lost, you know, within myself because I have this little baby. I'm trying to do and it's just exhausting, you know, like at that. And I wasn't who I am today, you know? And so, I slowly, you know, like when you break up with somebody, like you said on the opposite of like some people have their glow up, but some people go downhill because they get lost within other people. We lose ourselves many times within, and you don't realize it. You don't realize how emotionally attached you become to people. And then plus he was verbally and physically abusive. So I always was already didn't have the best self-esteem, you know? So that was so many factors of why I put up with his shit, you know? And so I decided to finally leave. And so I'm kind of out partying. My parents are helping me with my son. And I'm trying to and you know, when I get into partying and I'm like, I you know, it becomes a habit. So I'm going out on weekends and it starts to go more weekdays and I'm coming home at night, but you know, like I'm not the best mom when you've been drinking all night, you know, you're a mess, you know? And so, but I'm still playing the part. I'm still taking care of my son. You know what I mean? Yeah. My parents are now helping me, more and, with my son. And I'm feeling empty and lost at that point. So I meet my girls' dad, my 2 younger girls. I meet him, and you know he was always a gentleman to me. Like he would take care of me, but he was selling drugs. So I got wrapped up in that, and I thought, oh well, you're a drug dealer. You don't have to really you got to sell a lot in order to get. No, they don't care, girl. They don't care if it's like you sell like an ounce or if you're selling kilos. Like they're gonna bust you, and it's just a cycle. It's a negative cycle, an evil cycle. That drug world, you know? And so I was never really involved in that. But so he was selling everything. I don't know, from coke to heroin. At the time it was heroin was a big thing. Heroin, crystal meth, you know, so he would sell it all except for weed and everything, the hard drugs, you know? So I ended up getting, I ended up getting busted with him like shortly, maybe like 6 months later, I got busted with him for for drug trafficking and possession of drugs. You know, task force literally. Thank God I never sold out of my house and I never got busted because they can come and raid your house.
Yeah.
But they actually stepped me up where, well, it was like, you know how these people who are, what they tell on you or whatever. Mm-hmm. So it's people who, snitches. Yeah, they don't want to do their time. So right. So they set me up and then task force is waiting. I was like, why are all these police cars waiting for me? So they pull me over and they all have the task force on the back of their jackets. And they're like, and I'm like, oh shit. So I'm putting it, I have some on me. So I'm putting it down my pants, you know, I'm like trying to like, what the fuck? Like I knew, I didn't know what was going on, but then I quickly found out.
Yeah.
You know, so then they're like, they take me to the police station and they want to ask you questions and all of these things. So I ended up getting, so when I actually got booked into county jail, they found the heroin. So that's a possession. And there was like stuff in my car from because I'd have people like, you know, they boost stuff for me and they would boost what, you know, I'd have people, that's just an evil life. That's a lifestyle that's not like the most positive thing. Yeah, absolutely. So that's where, I mean, at that moment, going to jail and that's where I like got on my knees like, oh my God, I need help. And here my son is at home and I am now in jail again, you know?
Wow.
So that was like a huge awakening for me. Absolutely. So that was like my rock bottom.
That's your defining moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rock bottom.
Yes. So, and my mom wouldn't bail me out. She's like, you know what? She thought I was using heroin. She's like, I was not using heroin. Yeah. Like, I never liked that. Like, I was more of an upper person, you know, I'd mess with, but I would did it like I messed around with like crystal meth. Like, of course, like we were selling things, but I was more always a drinker. I was never really, but I've tried things, you know? And, so I ended up going to prison and I got set. And because of my juvenile record, they use I had 9 juvenile felonies. So each one was a half a point. So I ended up getting busted and I got busted with a bunch of guys. It was like a drug ring. My name was in the paper, like, you know, like embarrassed. And my mom was like, oh my God, because my mom involved in the church. Very, you know, she's a normal citizen. And she's like, what the hell, my daughter? It was like, they said drug bust, a drug ring, heroin ring.
The newspapers are crazy. Same thing. I have a felony too. I had to go to jail. But same thing, like all of our names were in the newspaper. And they were like, they said my ex-husband's name was like, part of a credit card ring, and I was like, what?
The ring part makes it look so bad.
What do you mean? It's just him, bro.
Yeah, like, hello. Yeah.
Him and a few random little girls that worked for him. You know what I mean? Like, but I just thought that was funny.
Well, it's the news, right? They want to like make it seem way worse or whatever. They just kind of like, they don't care. It's not them. And that's their job.
Yeah.
You know, to exploit people like in the worst ways, you know? So I end up going to prison. And like I said, my mom didn't want to bail me out. She's like, no, I'm dead. Like, cause my mom has been helping me.
Yeah.
But you know what? That's the best thing though. I feel like for sure, like parents enable their children. Tough love is for real. Like, you know what? They're in my hardest times. And when I didn't have anybody having my back was when I learned the quickest.
Yeah. Cause nobody's saving you.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to save yourself. You got to learn to pick yourself back up because no one can do that shit for you, you know? And so I get sent to a prison in Seattle. That was an awakening moment because now it's no bullshit.
How
it's not
long did you get?
72 months.
Okay.
So I actually got a program. So at the time, this is when crystal meth was first came out. So they weren't giving halftime for crystal meth because they couldn't control it, right? They couldn't control it, but for heroin or anything else, they gave you halftime. So, and then I did it's a program called DOSA. But with DOSA, you have to commit to doing a treatment program in prison. And then you do your time on parole, but a strict parole.
Okay.
So like if you're like when you get out, like they're like in your face.
Yeah.
Like they're like I had to check in that you have to call. They would like if your number was called or your color, like you got to go drug test.
Yeah.
And alcohol, they do the breathalyzer and everything. So you can't be doing anything. Mm-hmm. So you got to be straight laced, period.
Yeah.
You know, but so to back it up a little bit though. So when I'm in jail, like I do my time in prison, I went through it there like a treatment center. I was in Eastern Washington and my son ended up getting severely sick. So like almost died. So he got RSV the first time and they transferred me and nobody really got transferred. Like it has to be serious.
Yeah.
So they transferred me back over to by closer to where I live. I was in Tacoma, Washington. And then they so I could be close to my son. We weren't sure if he was going to live. So that started like my son. So now my son is like 5 years old. He's, my son doesn't walk or talk. He's in therapy. He's has a feeding tube. So he has a lot of ailments and problems, complexities in life, So they brought him, they would bring him to see me, as much as they could, they were always there for me. But that was my awakening moment to go to prison, to know that like all those people that I thought were my friends, they're not your friends. Those people, they're broken people too.
Yeah.
And no offense, because we hang out with certain people for certain seasons of our life to learn the certain reasons and right, to go through things. And that I would never have known those people were never my real friends unless I had went through that situation. Yeah. But the biggest thing for me for life changing was people, places, and things. Once you change that, you can change anything. But it's hard because that's all we know. Yeah, that's all we know. That's all I really knew. And that was my comfort zone, right? So anything out of our comfort zone is uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable.
And we don't like being uncomfortable
or alone. Yeah. At that moment, like I remember before I got busted, I didn't like I didn't want to be alone because God would speak to me. Remember, because I got saved, right? So like God would speak to me. I'm like, don't leave me alone, because I would hang out with anybody. These people on heroin, they were shooting up in my house. I caught people with needles in their neck, like crazy shit. People went on heroin or drugs. Period. It's relentless. It's relentless. Yeah. And the things but that's the type of people I was hanging out with. Mind you, that wasn't what I was doing. Yeah. I wasn't doing heroin, but I would hang out with that just not to be alone. Yeah. Just so I didn't have to listen to that voice in my head, like calling me back, like, you got to get your shit together, but you know what? You don't have any choice but to listen to that voice when you're in a cell. Woo. When you're in a cell that's and deep. You have nowhere to turn. Now there's no alcohol, there's no drugs, there's no people to distract your time. Yep. It's all you and God in that moment. And so so I really, really started working on myself before I got transferred. So in prison, I read books. I learned to crochet. That's crazy. I don't know what the fuck you know what that is. I made blankets, girl. I couldn't do it now. I would do beading, because I've always been a very creative person. Yeah. I'm creative, so I like to always do stuff like that. But I did pottery. Like there was certain classes in I was a pre-release after I got moved to Eastern Washington, so I would do things like that, and that helped. But I really was. I read the Bible, girl, numerous times. I would listen to church, like you had headphones with like a radio station. Yeah. I really tried. I had moments in prison that weren't like the best. Had like a girlfriend for a little bit. Like I kind of get lost, and it's same shit now. Come back, bring it back.
I had my first lesbian experience at Sybil Brand, which was in LA. Yeah,
well, because the difference between men's prison and women's prison, it's like a lesbian soap opera novella. No,
the girls don't jump each other. But they do fight over girlfriends.
Oh yeah, or they reoffend. They reoffend to come back to prison to see their girlfriend.
Because
they're like diehards. They're diehards. I'm like, you're crazy. She's like, I got a charge to come back and be with my girl. I was like, you're crazy.
When I got released, because the girl her name was Teardrops from 18th Street and from Rampart Division, and she was going to prison. But I just violated felony, so I was getting out. Yeah. And same thing, the day I got released, I was crying.
You're like, I'm gonna leave my girl. It's because women were emotional. So when you're like that with a woman and you're both emotional, it's like it could be messy. It could be messy.
And also too, because it's your only source of love in there. Like it's your only dopamine high.
Exactly. We're trying to distract again, right? Yes. So it's always like, especially that feels comfortable when you're already a mess. Like, and that's all you're used to. You're used to distracting yourself and forgetting about what you need to be really dealing with by using all these other things, these reasons. So it's another reason to distract yourself, right? So that was kind of like, I was in that, but I would say for the most part in prison, I was a different person. Like I tried, I was like, I really strived to be, man, I got to get out of here, see my son alive, see my children. And my daughter now was like 12, and she needed me because she was like with my parents, and they're like, and when you're a grandparent, it's different. You're more lenient with it, right? Except for I'm like, I feel like strict as a grandma, but they were like really lenient with her. Like she just wasn't on a great path either. Yeah. So like I just, in my mind, I'm like, I got to get out and really get my shit together, So I end up going, so at that time they had, and now it's like a halfway house here, but I was able to do 7 months in a work release situation.
So when you got released, did you had a goal in mind this time?
Well, so I went to work release and I was there. So you go there and you get a job. So and you live in the facility, but then you can go out and work. And if you find work, then they give you like home hours. So you can go visit. You can go with a registered person or whoever is
weekend passes.
Yeah. Well, I didn't get to go for the weekend overnight, but you could go for like a couple hours, like the evening. You have to be back by midnight type of thing. And then
my ex-husband had. I was his little signer.
Yeah. So my parents would sign me out. Well, then at this time, so my second husband, my girls' dad, he had got out before me because he didn't have any priors. He didn't have any,
Fuck. That's right. So
and I was like, I don't want anything to do with this motherfucker. Like I just went to jail, a prison for him. Like, no, like, being involved in that lifestyle. I was like, I'm good. Yeah. But the entire time he was like he was in prison too. So he was sending me letters. You know how you have to have someone else send it in. Like it would come through to me. I was like, so, he went to my parents, but he always would tell me, I owe you. You lost everything. I lost everything. Like I literally lost everything I'd ever had with going to prison. My vehicle, my house, like I lost it all. Like, and so he always like, I'm gonna repay you. I'm gonna help you get it back. Like, and I was like, I don't want anything to do with you. So he's sitting, like I'm at work release. I get my first job, and my dad's sitting at the table with him in this cafe. So I'm like a waitress, and I'm like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Like this is crazy. Right. I was like, and I'm thinking, you're bad. And like, and so, but he was always sweet to me though, too. Like he, in the beginning, he wasn't really abusive. Like he wasn't really like that, So I fell for it clearly. And I ended up pregnant in work release. So I hid my pregnancy until like it was almost 8 months. So yeah. So, cause I lost some good time when I was in, so I had to stay a little bit longer. See, I'm always trying to break the rules, do the most. I told you that, so I lost like 60 days. So I had to do an extended time a little bit. So, but I'm pregnant, like the first time being with him, it's been a couple years.
Damn.
Like I ended up pregnant. And then I'm like, fuck, like I didn't tell anybody there, but like, because I was nervous because like with the program I was on, they could easily send me back to prison for the rest of the term. Okay. So I could have went back for, a few years. So I was like, and then people, they send you back pregnant, and there's a program where you can raise like a housing unit where you actually raise your children till they're like 2. The last thing I want to do is raise my child in prison. And here, remember, I have to get home to my son.
Yeah.
So, and obviously you can't leave long enough to go get an abortion. That's not an option. Yeah. And they didn't have, I don't think they had the pill then. Yeah. That's different. That's newer. Yeah. So, and I wouldn't have done that anyway. So I hid it. I just act like I was getting chubby. Like, it's crazy how things work out. Like I didn't look pregnant. I was actually really small with her until I got out. It's like I grew the last month and a half. I was like,
God was like, let's hide it.
Yeah. So it was like, I just looked there like, oh, you're like eating, because in prison, like, or in jail, you're eating a lot of maruchan and crazy stuff that's not good for you. So people bulk up, right? In a different way. And so I hid my pregnancy and I got out, and I was a little nervous to go to the doctor the first time because, I heard that they can call like CPS on you because I wasn't doing the prenatal care. I was taking prenatal vitamins and I was taking care of myself, but I wasn't getting the doctor, and mind you, here's my son. So I didn't want to have any more children because of what happened to my son. I was scared because I didn't know that it's like actually didn't come. Like they did the genetic testing. It just happens. Like it happens. It just happens in one in every, I don't know how many, 100,000 babies. Yeah. It's just like a glitch, right? So I have my son, so I wasn't sure if that was going to happen to my daughter. So I was scared to have more children.
It sounds scary.
Yeah. So that, the doctor, I go in, the doctor's like, and actually my third child was my easiest pregnancy and my easiest birth. Like, and she's pretty easy as a child too, like she was like, so it's crazy how that happens when you have your children. It kind of dictates how, like when you're pregnancy and stuff, how they are later on. It's weird. It's kind of, it all works together. It's crazy. But, I have her and I'm home, and now I'm like just barely getting out of prison, trying to get my shit together, trying to get rid of people, places, and things, trying to become this mother to a severely disabled child, a mother to a pre-adolescent teen, and now I have a new baby. Sheesh. So it was a lot. And then I was like, I don't want to live with my mom either. So I'm like renting a room, struggling financially, but I'm working. I'm always a hard ass worker. One thing I'll say is my parents raised me to be a hard worker. I was never lazy. I'm not the child to be sitting watching TV.
Right.
I knew how to do a lot. I still do. Like my parents taught me the old school, like I was doing everything from, I would help my dad like paint the house, mow the lawn. Like we were old school like that, So that was one thing I wasn't. I worked my ass off and I was working like 2 full-time jobs and a part-time job and worker lease. So I stacked my money. I was able to buy a small car. It wasn't the best car. It was like a little Dodge Neon. But thank God for that car. Like when you lose everything and you have to get it back, you should be so much more grateful, So I start all again. And, slowly, I remember that my ex, he would like he came to me one day. He's like, I'm ready to make real money. It was hard for him to go back to making. I mean, he would have like 20 grand in his wallet at all times. Like it was hard for him. And he was sending a lot of his money to Mexico, where they were spending it. You know what I mean? Right. Another story. But, so I was like, hell no. No. And if I had, it's so easy. People go back to what they know most, right? We were talking about being comfortable. And in those moments that defined me. So saying no was a huge step for me to growing as a better, now I look back and I'm like, damn, if I hadn't said no, where would I have been? Back in prison, Yeah. So I start changing and I'm, with my child, I'm managing a restaurant. I'm working hard. And then I opened my own catering business and I started, because I was always a hustler, and so I started doing that. And then, if you're out there and you're struggling, like fill your time with other things. Idle time is not good time. I still get in trouble if I have too much free time.
Addicts.
Yeah, no. I got to have my book. Like, I was booked. So I would be working full time and I would be catering events on the weekends. I catered weddings. Because I always loved to cook. So I was like, my kids begged me to cook. But girl, I don't like to cook because I have to clean up and but my kids I know I cook, I cook good, I can cook. And that was always been something from the time I was a child. I'd always be cooking, baking, doing something. So that was my thing for 5 years. And then I started going through the court proceedings with my son. So now my son, I'm taking care of him. My parents are helping me. I'm working full time, trying to juggle it all, but I'm making it work, right? Yeah. This is the first time in my life I got my shit together, But what helped me is when I was working, I worked at a restaurant that actually was part of a church. So when the restaurant wasn't running on weekends or on Wednesdays, it would turn into a church. So that was like my safe place, that was my family. I needed that. It was perfect for me. It was a positive energy, people who loved on me and no matter and they saw me through it. And I went through a lot of counseling, therapy, inner healing. And that was what started my new life, So then I got married to my second husband. Okay. And I didn't really want to have any more kids. So I'm still freaked out about having kids. Yeah. And then I got pregnant with my youngest daughter. Well, actually I got pregnant before that and I had a miscarriage. So, and I was kind of happy because I was in my mode of working and my I was doing what I loved and I was making money and my business was growing and I was booked and busy. And then I get pregnant. I'm pregnant. And then I had a miscarriage. And then shortly after I got pregnant with my youngest daughter. And he was like, I want your Ariana to have a sister. And I'm like, I don't want to have any more kids. This is a lot. Because I wasn't really a kids person, Yeah. And so then I have my daughter and she's now 15. And I love her. I would not change anything that I've been through. And after that, I was like, hey, that's a lot. I have 4 children, one severe handicapped child. And your kids need so much energy. If you're going to parent right, you have to be so involved. Yes. And then plus I'm a businesswoman because I've always been a natural hustler. So it's the same thing with selling drugs. Now I'm doing something legally, right? I'm like, okay, I want to start something. So my son went through the lawsuit process. So what happened to my son was a complete malpractice on the hospital part. So I'm going through all these court proceedings and I'm on the news and I'm speaking about it. My son's case was a landmark case. He changed laws in Oregon State.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So he changed laws for other families to actually, because they had this weird cap, this law that you couldn't sue any public entity for more than $200,000. When $200,000 is nothing. When you have a severely handicapped child, it costs a lot to care for them, and the state does not pay. Like it's very minimal what Medi-Cal pays, what Washington State, like what any welfare type insurance pays. They're not going to pay. And then also if you make more money, like you have to make nothing in order to get SSI for your child. Like, so you have to be broke. And I'm like, I'd rather work. I'd rather hustle and make my own money, even though it wasn't easy. Like I was struggling, but I started getting in a groove of, my business was growing. So long story short, my son won the lawsuit. Yay. And so I wanted to move him because when we would come visit, I'd bring my family on vacation to California. His lungs were so much better because he was getting sick all of the time in California, in Washington.
Damn.
Because it's rainy. It's cold.
Oh, okay. See, I don't know this stuff. Okay.
Yes. So he was constantly sick. So like the air quality is hot here. The weather's good. So for a lot of people with ailments or like lung problems, it's really good to be like, a lot of people move to Arizona. Like it's like having arthritis and people move to Arizona. Like I can move. Like I'm, the cold weather is not that great.
I'm learning things.
Yes.
This is new.
So we moved to California and, I didn't win any part of the lawsuit. So it was like, so they didn't have like, pain and suffering for the parents or anything, but my son did, which is what matters. So, but they're now paying me. So I had to change completely. Like I had to like give up my catering business and stay home with him and take care of him. And he does need somebody full time. So we buy a house here. We totally move out of like, it was scary to move to a different state. I knew nobody here. I didn't have family in the area. I moved to like the high desert. And I moved there because of the air quality. So I did all this research on shit. I'm crazy. I told you I'm crazy. I did all this research on air quality and they don't have a marine layer. So it's like clean, no pollution. It's different here. So I moved up there, buy a house, but it was nice when I first moved there. And I loved my house. Like I raised my kids there. And so, but then shortly after, there's been moments in my life when my second husband would beat me up. So he get drunk and he becomes like the devil. Like he turns into a different person. So, and sometimes it'd be like once every 5 years or maybe once every 2 years. And that started to break me down, like, I'm like, what am I doing here? And my daughters were witnesses to this,
right?
So that was hard for me. My daughters, they suffer a lot of traumatic issues from this. Yeah, absolutely. So they, so when they were little, they had little certain instances where that would happen. And so when they were like, it was probably, I want to say my daughters were maybe like 8 and like 6 or somewhere around there. No, maybe a little bit younger, maybe like 7 and 4. He ended up hitting me and then he went to jail and they deported him because he didn't have his papers.
Oh, shit.
So, and he was like, honestly, like he helped me with my son. My son, like now, has fully handicapped. He needs someone to take care of him 24/7. And I had my children in dance. So I had my daughters in dance. That was like my outlet. That was, like I told you, I can't be just sitting at home. I have to be busy. So I'm like driving down to Corona every day. And my daughter, who's now almost 19, she's like, was like really big, like really good at being a competitive dancer. She's like, has this natural gift. So that was like my outlet of like freedom, something that took me away from my son's issues at home and made me feel like I was, doing something with my life. With being an at-home mom, it's tough. Yeah. Just being stuck at home, like cleaning, cooking, organizing, like it makes you crazy. I'm not an at-home mom type of person, but I had to have a break.
The sock drawer color-coded.
I'm like, okay, I literally. And when I would get mad if like the rug would be like crooked or like I'm like crazy, like you need something to do, like for real.
OCD.
And like once again, I'm obsessive with everything. So I really got obsessed with my daughter I was all or nothing.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna train and we would train in my living room and she was like really good. She'd win. Like she had trophies bigger than her. And so but then shortly after that, the second year that she was in dance when she was 7, he hit me and then he ended up going, he got deported and trying to come back. They busted him in Arizona and he gets sent to federal prison because it's illegal reentry because he's been in prison before.
They take you to prison?
Yes.
Shut
federal
up.
prison. Yeah. Years. Yes.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
Come
absolutely.
on, just throw them back over the border.
Yeah,
What the
6 years. He did 6 years. So here I have like really no family here in California. My parents were with me on and off, but I had no friend. Like I didn't have like a lot of people to help me, And so he was taken out of my life, and that was the only person to take care of my son. So I'm like, fuck, what am I gonna do now?
Yeah.
Like it was like a wake up call. Yeah, like I even asked them to like they even like dropped the charges, but he had an instant ICE hold, so they don't care. They deport you, and so I hired an attorney. I sold all my gold, girl. Like I was like when I made magic happen, like in moments. But he's already guilty though because he's illegal and he's coming across. So he like got like maybe 7 months off his sentence, and my girls, it was really hard for them because her dad was everything to them, you know. So. But we formulated this girl power thing, my younger daughters and they would cry, and I was like, and that made me stronger, and it made our bond stronger, you know? And so I was like, no, you're not gonna cry, we got this. I got this, you know? And I didn't really have it, like, but I made it work, you know? And so that was a lot. And shortly after that, maybe like a year and a half into his sentence, I started my company. So because I was making money from taking care of my son, but we live in California, girl. It's not a lot.
What's it called?
It's called Candy Couture.
Okay.
So now my daughter's a dancer, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna make because my daughter's tiny. She's tiny, petite, and I'm like, she didn't fit in anything, and I'm like, I'm gonna make stuff and sell it to the moms at dance, because I'd be like, one booty short I buy was like this big, and it was like $90 at the time because there's nothing in the market. Yeah. So I started like my nanny, and I had a nanny to help me with my son and my girls. We would sew her little booty shorts and make a pattern. I didn't know what I was doing, but I had an idea, right?
That's where I started.
I didn't have good credit. Yeah, an idea. I didn't have good credit. I didn't have, like I said, I didn't get any money from my son's lawsuit. That money is his money in a trust fund, to take care of him. I'm just getting paid a wage to take care of him at this point. Okay. So I'm like I'm struggling. And then dance is expensive. Dance moms it's crazy. Yeah. It's like a whole other mortgage. Like it's expensive. Then you want to do. And then remember I do the most. Yeah, exactly. So I got to have like privates for my daughter all of the every several times a day, and I'm driving her all over, and I'm just making it work. Struggling, yes. Mm-hmm. Was it tough? Absolutely. But those tough moments made me, more like made me a better person, and made me strive for more, made me want more, and So I'm like, I started my company, and it just slowly and then I had a friend who built me a website, and he was like, he's always believed in me, and I would want to give up. He's like, no, don't give up. And I'm like, I haven't got a sale in like 3-4 days. And I get one sale. Like it was so slow in the beginning, but those are the moments that like so many people give up so short of their success, the breakthrough.
How long would you say that the slow time?
Probably like a year and a half.
Right, they usually say like when you first start a business, the first
year. I didn't even know what
I
was doing because I didn't go to school. And in that industry, there's cutthroat in LA. Like they don't like you gotta. I had men like perverted men. Then I would bring my kids with me, but I would pay this production manager, and I just put up with his shit. Like he's this nasty man. Perverted man. But I would bring my kids with me so he couldn't. He's like, oh, you brought your kids? I'm like, because I knew what he wanted. Yeah. But I would pay attention, so he would bring me to places, and I would then go back after I stopped using him. And I'm like, oh, you want to work with me? Like, so I slowly started to learn the patterning process. Yeah. Because we manufacture everything from scratch, basically. Yeah. So we design, cut, sew, manufacture, sell everything. It's not like we don't relabel anything, So, but I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah. So everything I went through was not easy, but I made it.
You made like every mistake in the world.
Oh my gosh, so many expensive mistakes. Like if I would have known, but I don't know if I would have really got where I am today if I didn't, Right. But I just didn't give up. Like here, because mind you, I'm fighting with my son for his life. Like I would be in the hospital with him sometimes 2 months at a time, 3 months. He'd be sick, girl. My kids, I pulled some crazy shit. Like my kids would literally be, because at times I was raising my grandson. So since my grandson, he's now 8, I've had him since, because my daughter has a drug problem, my oldest daughter, bless her. And hopefully she's working on herself. Yeah. But so since he was 1, I've had like custody twice. Now I have full custody of him. But when you're in an emergency room, you can't bring your other children with you. They don't allow it. So my son would be in the emergency room, and I have my little girls hiding in the van with my grandson playing. They play, and I mean they're in a locked car, but they were smart. They were smart and grown. I had no options. Right. I didn't have a family here. My parents weren't living here at the time. I had to make everything work, and I did. I made it work. And they grew up quick, you know what I mean? But they're always like, okay, Mom, we got you. So at times my son would be at Cedars-Sinai at the hospital in ICU on a vent, like he'd literally be intubated, fighting for his life. I'd put my kids in a hotel, like
next door.
Yeah. 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 And I would be like walking, because they don't allow kids in ICU. They don't allow, a lot of times they don't allow kids to be in there. I had no other choice.
Yeah.
My kids were just grown. They would sit there and watch Law and Order. They're like, yeah, like, and they, and I would like, my daughter had a phone by the time she was 6, the one who danced, and she was super grown. If you meet her, she's a whole woman. Aww. She's like, I mean, my kids are very mature. My younger, the girls are very mature, but they had to be. So it all worked out, and so through the struggle, like I listened to people bitch, and I'm like, man, I was in ICU working on my company, But when you find moments when you're going through things and you like, but you change it, you put something in its place, right? So we can be broken.
Wait, let's say that again. You're in ICU with the son's fighting for his life. Your kids, no help, in a hotel, and you're still working on your business.
Yes.
Can we just give a shout out to all you lazy mofos?
Thank you.
That's
no,
crazy.
like that. Yeah. But you know what? I feel like those are the moments when it was like, I wanted to replace that with something. Because there was moments where I was drinking in the hospital too. I'm not going to lie. There's like a little liquor store by Cedars-Sinai. And I was a mess. Because here, my husband at the time he's in prison. He can't help me. And he was kind of like my backbone, he was always with my son, with me in the hospital. I'm alone. And I'm like, and I have these kids, and I'm like, man, I just want to get drunk. Like, and I didn't know what was happening with my son because my son was not well at that time. Like, they didn't know if he's going to live or not. It was hard. It was sad, sad moments, and I didn't know how to cope with that, So, but the company helped me. Opening a company and redirecting my energy helped me so much. Because once you find what you love to do, like, it's not work. Like, I love to work. Like, people ask, what do you like to do? I like to work. Yeah. It's crazy enough. Like, I love to have time. I spend a lot of time with my kids, but I love to be doing something with my life. Like, it's fulfilling. It's not even the money thing so much as the challenge to know that I have got this far without having any schooling. Like, I didn't go to fashion school. Most people have to have something and people ask me, how do you do it? And then they don't want to really hear because they don't have the grit and the grind to actually get there. They're like, oh, you had to do all that? Okay.
No.
They want to work 9 to 5 and then go home.
People
and I'm like,
don't want to work. People want you to tell them
the easy way.
Like, they think it's a secret. Like, well, if you post this or if you say this, then you're going to become like this multi-millionaire. They don't see the day 1 and night. Year of zero, nothing coming in, of the struggle, of the sacrifices, of being patient. Everyone wants the instant gratification.
Absolutely.
If
Absolutely.
If I don't get it, then that's not meant for me.
Well, that's why there's so many companies. What is it? They're like, the companies, like, I want to say only 2% of companies after the first year, they go under. Why? Because people give up.
Yeah.
They give up because they're like, oh, well, it's too much work. You know what? Too much is too much. What is too much? Yeah. What is it too much when you could be making multi-million dollars? Like it's, I never would have guessed. Yeah. Because if you would have asked me, I would have been like, hell no. Like, I was like, I mean, mind you, I'm struggling. I'm probably making like six grand before taxes, taking care of my son. But mind you, I'm the only, like, I didn't have a nurse. Like, I'm paying an RN to take care of my son. My son is RN level of care. Like, he has a trach now and everything. Yeah. So he's like, he has the full, like, he requires 24/7, Okay. So like, but if you're paying an RN, they make $45 an hour. So now I'm like this, I'm basically an unlicensed nurse girl. Like, I literally am. The things that I have been taught to do, like with my son, is crazy. You just roll with the punches, right? Right. So like through all of this, so like I've saved my son so many times. My son has died. Oh my gosh, he's crazy strong though. So I'm watching him, like, cause typically, so when he was a baby, they sent him home with hospice with me. They're like, we're not expect him to live. So a lot of kids that have severe brain injuries, they die, they pass away. Their organs stop working, and there's a lot of kids that don't make it past that. A lot of adults, like if we go into cardiac arrest, car accidents, whatever, you don't make it, or you're a vegetable, right? So his whole life they've been telling me, you need to prepare for your son not to be here. How do you prepare for your child? What parent, I don't care what situation your child is in, what parent can prepare themselves for their child to pass away? We're supposed to die after our children. Or before our children. Yeah. So who can get ready for that? I don't care. And so hearing that so many times was just like, I used to like believe it. Now I don't believe it. Nah, don't tell me, because you're not God. You don't know anything. So like, but like those,
literally in the hospitals, I believe in miracles. Like,
absolutely,
I fucking believe in the power of miracles, and just when the hospitals just be telling people you could die, and I just be
they do that.
And then people are believing it. They believe it. That's why they pass.
Exactly. It's like so many times when people don't even know they're sick until they find out they're sick, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, I feel so sick. It's all in the brain. The power of the mind, which is crazy. Why like Joe Dispenza, I've been listening to him for a couple years now, but he talks about he's watched people heal themselves from blindness, from being deaf, like just all through the power of their own freaking mind. The mind is everything. And the mindset. So we can choose to be the victims. We can choose to be broke. Like if you're going to focus on being broke all day, you're going to be broke. Oh my gosh, my bills. It's not. Listen, let me tell you, everybody's paying bills, but it's what you focus on is where your energy is going to, it's crazy. Whatever we focus on is where your life is going to either bloom or where it's going to wilt, right? So I'm choosing now to look at things different. But mind you, at this time, I'm still a mess.
Yeah.
So I have anxiety. I'm a mess. Like I have so much I'm juggling. I'm like trying to make it all work. And I'm Wonder Woman over here, like literally like, okay, holding my son down when he's in the hospital. And my son is sick a lot. You know, he gets pneumonia. He gets aspiration pneumonia. So we're in and out of the hospital. My kids were never in public school for that reason, because I never had a normal life. What's normal? Like, I didn't have stability. They were never on a schedule. I was like, we would fly by the seat of my pants. Should they go to bed whenever, like, and we just went with it. And that was our lifestyle. And it still is. It still is. My son just had surgery. So he was just in the hospital 2.5, 3 weeks. So it is what it is. But you, as a parent with a sick child, you just learn to roll with the punches. You just learn to deal, So I opened my company. My company's now, it's growing slowly, and I'm gaining momentum, right? And then my girls' dad. So I always told him, well, if I don't find anybody else while you're in prison, then I'll get back together with you, because and I thought the grass was greener. He was always he's a hard worker. Like there's a lot of great qualities about him, but I was thinking, because when he was in prison, he acted like he was changing. He was, everybody's like, I'm gonna read the Bible, like been there, done that, but they change for the moment, but then until reality hits.
Every time.
Yeah. So, but when I feel like when he first got out though, so here I go rent a house in Mexico. He comes home to this beautiful big house, and he was like thinking I'm selling drugs again, and I'm like, no, I started my company, because we didn't have a lot of contact when he was in prison. I would take the girls to see him, but I didn't make it my priority, because I figure like distance is sometimes good.
So at this point, how much are you making now?
Oh my gosh, maybe like 200, maybe like 100,000, 250,000 a year, like just off the company.
That's good.
So, but like it was slow, but you have overhead with that too. Right. So, and I'm making a lot of mistakes at this point, right? Yeah. And up in the high desert, I did open like a little spot, like like manufacturing and like where we ship everything out of, and then. But what really like transformed me, it was I got the house in Mexico, and then when he's out, I'm just going there maybe like 3 days a week starting off, So and I slowly would go visit, but I'm still making it all work. So mind you, it's not close to Mexico. Like it's like 30 minutes across the borders, and then doing the border thing. And so I'm doing this turnaround trip with my kids, taking all my son's stuff there. And I see him changing, in the beginning. So he's like changing, he's different. And then, he made effort. I feel like when he first got out with the kids too, like I feel like he tried. And he was helping me with my company. He would like cut things for me. We found sewers finally, very slowly. But so I started to do a lot of manufacturing in Mexico. And then I started living there kind of full time. My girls are here dancing, and I'm there getting my grind on, Yeah. And so shortly, like during the pandemic, we were fully living over there. Like I had a house here, but I'd come back here like just to check in every 2 weeks. I was fully pretty much living in Mexico. But he still had his moments when he would drink, and he would want to put his hands on me, and that, he turns into a different person when he's drinking, turns into somebody I don't like. Dr. Jekyll,
Dr. Hyde.
Yeah, craziness, crazy. So, and that's a scary way of living with, especially when you're in Mexico. They could throw you under a bridge and you just disappear, and it doesn't matter, right? It's not like here where the people are, well, even here people do it. Yeah. People kill their wives, people kill their husbands here. Yeah. I mean, so like basically I'm living over there until, but I really started gaining momentum probably 2019, 2020 with my company. So now we're at over 1 million, we're making about 1 million. So for about 4 years, we're at 1.2, but we didn't go under that, but we weren't gaining momentum after that. Right. So I started working on myself probably about 3 years ago. That's when I started believing in manifestation, and I started just with vague stuff, I wasn't really detailed, so I started, but it made me be a believer. It made me a believer. So I always had planned to leave him. And I'm like, but I stayed with him because my daughters, my daughters begged me, please, because, every child wants their mom and dad to be together, I feel like, and then I'm out, now my girls are older and they finally tell me, Mom, we know you're not happy. You're not happy because you'd be crazy. You'd be crazy. And they would see it. They're smart, and if you're not happy, leave him. And I'm like, so I started to plot my escape. And how am I going to escape? Because now he's taking care of my son full time. I have my son all over in Mexico. Doctors would come to my house. The lab would come to my house. And it's hard to find people. It's hard to find nurses and someone who's really going to love your child too, and really take care of them, and so that was the hard part for me. I stayed and I got treated like shit by him at times for my son. I took it for him, and so to leave that and now my company is there too. So I'm leaving everything. So it wasn't easy for me to leave. But then also I'm feeling like I'm a hypocrite. I'm telling my daughter's like, you're queens. You're not going to be treated like that by anybody. But I'm sitting here still putting up with the shit.
Right.
And so I completely let him do this to me for years until I was like about 2.5, 3 years ago. I was like, I'm out. So I planned my escape and it was scary as fuck. It was scary. I was scared. It was so comfortable there. I was manufacturing everything in Mexico. Right. So I got my own place here. We have contractors outside who help, and I was on my grind, and with the manifestation too. So now, but I worked.
What are you manifesting at this point?
A lot of things. Your
manifestation?
Well, I'm manifesting. I've been working on my coaching business. So manifesting, making 6 figures with that this year. Yes. So, and that also comes from me having enough time because it's time consuming to make content, as you know. Uh-huh. You're on Instagram, and so then trying to juggle and balance both. So I'm manifesting it because I'm now about not working as hard because for so many years I worked hard. Yeah. I worked 16-hour days. Yeah. 17, 18 hours when everybody's sleeping or on their phones or hanging out. I was working. I would work. Even if I would party, I would get up and work. Mm-hmm. There was no such thing as a hangover day in bed. No, girl, I was up. And pandemic, I worked my ass off to keep my company, but that was one of my most profitable years because I was smart. Mm-hmm. And we ran sales all the time, but people loved it. People were buying. Moms were bored at home. Yeah. So, but I'm also manifesting this year to, last year we hit 2.4. I want to hit 3.5 this year, which we've been on a slow,
this is just little girl dancing clothes.
Yes. Fuck. Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. And I want to buy my own house. So I moved from the high desert. So we sold the house and we moved to Orange County. But I wasn't sure, I wish I would have tried living there, renting. You feel me? Because I was coming from Washington, so I didn't really know what I was getting into. Yeah. And slowly as I lived in the high desert, it went downhill. Mm-hmm. There's people getting killed, right down the block and shit. I loved my house was gorgeous. It was, my house was gorgeous. It's like a own little paradise, but we're the views aren't that great. You know what I mean? So moving to Orange County, but what's crazy is now I look back, I did a quantum leap. So I told you I disappeared. So I literally had toxic friends in the high desert. Yeah. I had people that weren't healthy for me and they were there for me for certain seasons of my life. Yeah. But I had to let those things go in order to grow as a person, as a company. Level. Yeah. So I actually, because the companies grew, it blew up and I didn't know what to do. I was lost and I was I don't even know what I'm doing. And I was I couldn't keep up with customer service. Wow, I was in a mess.
Like there was so much success?
Yes. Well, and I was trying, and mind you, I'm still trying, and people don't see the back end. Girl, you really realize who your friends are? Because I had friends in the dance world, and my son would be in an ambulance, and they'd be asking for their dance outfit. Seriously. And I'm oh, girl, you're I would never. Right. And this is legit shit. It's not like I'm lying. Some people lie. Yeah. Girl, I was in ambulances with my son saving his life. And people would be hey, do you have my dance outfit? Because my daughter needs it. It's and I'm ooh, you're who thinks like that? But there's people who think like that. Right. Only about themselves. Right. Selfish individuals. So you really and that's why I've always been real distant since then. I start to really protect my energy with who I am, who I associate with, who I spend my time with. Absolutely. And because the more successful you get, you got to run a small circle. Yeah. You got to be cautious with who you're associating with, who you spend your time with.
It's hard when so your new life is always going to cost your old one. Right. And when you're in the new life, you're in a new level, you're on a new vibe. Yes. And us operating from a higher elevation, from us operating as entrepreneurs, it's such a small market of friends to find that can hold that elevation, hold the vibrational frequency. Right. and
really want you to
understand
win.
it. Yes.
And really, really want you to win. Because I feel like so many people say that they want you to win, but they don't. They don't want you to win. They're envious. They're like looking at you. Well, how is she doing it? You know, people don't want to like look at themselves and be like, well, maybe I could do it too.
And that you trigger them.
Yeah.
You trigger your success will trigger in other people what they're not doing.
Absolutely.
And people don't like to be remembered to that.
No. So there's like things that where I started to open my eyes with like, oh my gosh, I started really seeing people for who they were. These people, because mind you, I'm a Pisces, so I'm very like friendly, very forgiving with people. So I only see the good in people a lot of times. And I needed to see people transparent, you know, for what they really were, the good and the bad. And when I really started paying attention, really opening my eyes, these people were not my friends.
Right.
They were not my friends. They didn't want the best thing for me. They want to use me. It was convenient for them, you know? So I literally quantum leaped into a new reality moving to Orange County. Because now, mind you, okay, every day I'm waking up, I see people who are wealthy, driving nice cars, you know?
What part of Orange County?
Yorba Linda. I live in Yorba Linda. So yes. So I'm like, there's people there who are doing well.
Yeah,
you know?
I know they are.
Yeah. So, but this is what I'm like, okay. So, but the thing is, I moved to Orange County really for my son. So I was driving the Cajon Pass. Mind you, the high desert doesn't have any hospitals. I'm coming all the way from Apple Valley.
High Valley, that's Victorville? Maybe?
Yeah. Past Victorville, though.
My mom lives there, yeah.
Okay, so Apple Valley, I was driving my son, and my daughters would be keeping him alive. I'd be flying down that pass to Cedar Sinai because my son has such complexities. You can't just take him anywhere. They freak out. You take him to a county hospital, like, oh, what do I do? I don't have anything. Like they're a mess. They don't get it. Like he's a high risk, like you know, complex patient. So I was Cedars. They're like amazing with him. Now he's going to Chalk, but like they you know it's and he's an adult. So but they still take him. Right. And thank God it's closer to my house. But I was flying down that freeway trying to save his life, and we did. We saved his life. But it was challenging. Man, the shit I've done, like the crazy shit. My daughters at 6 would be like, you know,
now
keeping
your highway speed runs. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I still made it. Sometimes we run out of oxygen, have to call 911. You know, on the freeway. We roll with it. Yeah. You know, you have to do with a child like that. You have to just keep it pushing. You can't. I know what to do in an emergency. I'm freaking out. I'm shaking, but it's an adrenaline rush. I go out and just steal cars anymore.
Is that?
I was gonna save my son's life.
And your coaching now that you have, is that part of your coaching?
Yes. Okay. Well, I have some coaching. So I do coaching for businesses. So people who have companies who they're not getting traffic. My daughter actually is my partner in that. So she runs all of my websites. She builds websites. Well, both of my daughters actually, they're
Is that the Capitona one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Oh, she's amazing. Like she's actually my whole business website and my
website.
Yeah, she's great. Like she is like talented like no other and self-taught. Like she didn't like, but she just helped me. She told me at 15 I don't want to dance anymore, and that was heartbreaking for me because I was a dance mom. I was actually on the show Dance Moms.
Yeah, my heart's in it.
Do you ever watch the show Dance Moms?
I have, yes.
Okay, so I did the Dance Mom thing with my daughter. I would do some crazy shit for my kids. I'm always a down mom, a down ass mom to like, okay, I was like, I don't really want to do this, but I'll do it for you because it's not really my thing. You know, I like real life stuff, and that's not reality TV. That's not really reality. But you know, she told me at 15, I don't want to, during the pandemic, I don't want to dance anymore. I want to work for you. And I was hard, but of course I want my daughter to be with me, you know, and my daughters. And so now both of them work with me, but my daughters, you know, so I teach people. So people come to me, their businesses, maybe they just started. Mm-hmm. They don't know how to run a business. They don't know how to grow. So we do everything from, you know, just basically coaching to help them. And I also have a program that actually teaches somebody from start to finish the right way and how to start their own brand. Perfect. So if they're wanting to like, whether it's, you know, T-shirts, whether it's actually like, you know, a lot of people want to do athletic wear for women, clothing line, anything like that's what we do. So we teach, we shortcut everything. So all the mistakes, the hundreds and thousands of dollars that I made in mistakes, you know, starting my company, I teach people from start to finish how to, well, not finish, but start to getting everything up and running, how to start up their own company and their clothing line too. And then I also have a program for personal development. So I'm a big person. Like you can't be successful, like you were saying with entrepreneurs, without working on yourself too. Of course. So we got to heal the inner child. We got to work on our energy. We got to work on us first, because then it's going to fall in line with how successful you are. Yeah. You know, you don't meet too many. Yeah, there's successful people who are a mess, but most of them, you listen to all of them talking. Yeah. they're working on themselves.
Definitely.
They're reading, they're working on their energy, they do meditation. Yeah, we got to work on ourselves. And then the majority, I mean, I would say all of them.
And how would someone get a hold of you for this?
Well, my website is queenmentor.com.
Queenmentor.com, and it's going to be flashed across the screen right now.
And then also I'm on Instagram, and it's the Sari Lopez.
The Sari Lopez.
Yes, and then
send you a DM.
Yes, and then also my daughter's website is Cabrona Designs.
Yes, and I've seen it.
Yes,
she's amazing. You guys go over there.
Well, she also does email marketing, so and that's been that is huge. So I tell people I go to people's websites, so I already naturally know now because I've learned so much, and I'm just a natural helper. Sometimes it's offensive for people, but I tell people like, hey, you don't have a pop up.
Yeah.
You don't have a pop-up. You're losing out on money. Yeah. Like we need to be customer retention. Like we need to, and people don't realize how much money they could be making if they really were utilizing, and it can be automated. It's crazy what you can do when it's all set up right.
Perfect.
So
okay.
Yes.
So from today's message, what are the 3 things you would like people to take away from your message?
That no matter where you're at in life, it's not impossible to start and make something amazing, right? Like I was the least likely to succeed. Nobody thought that I was a failure in my family. I didn't go to college because all my cousins went to college. So you don't have to go to college. I don't care where you're at.
Yeah.
Like if you make a chance, and I don't care you did 5 minutes ago, 30 years ago, 2 years ago, it's what you choose to do now in this moment. Like if you want to change, it starts now. It's not tomorrow, because when people plan tomorrow never comes. Yeah. It's like dieting, right? We're like, we want to start Monday. Yeah. No, start now. It takes now, and nothing's impossible. Second thing is consistency is everything, but it's not across the board everything. Like you never make mistakes. When you're consistent over time, you're going to see change, right? And you're still going to make mistakes. We're still going to fuck up, right? But it's when you pick yourself back up and you get in those, you still like, okay, yeah, I messed up, but I'm going to keep it pushing. That's what consistency is. So if you are consistent with something every single day, take 45 minutes out of your day. If it's work on your company, it's work on your brand, it's work on what you do best, what your occupation is. If you change and pour back 45 minutes that you're on social media or watching TV and you put it into yourself, you're going to see a big change. Third, like, no matter where you're at in life, like if you feel like you have nobody, like I've been there. Obviously, I've had no family at times, single moms. We lose ourselves within our children, right? Like it's never too late. Like ladies, take care of yourself. Yes, like, so many, right? As a mom, you lose, like you're at home, you feel like shit. Like, I don't care. Do what you want to do. Live your life for you, because it doesn't matter. We're born alone. We're going to die, one day. You don't take people with you typically. We're going to go alone. And so live out your legacy. Live the way that you want to live. Don't live for your parents. Don't live for your children. Of course, we have to take care of, but still live for what you love and embrace that. Like so many times people are like, oh, well, I want to do what they want me to do. And, and most people would say, do what you love. And like, these young kids that coming out of high school, they go to college because their parents want them to go to college.
That's
no,
crazy.
Find your purpose and live it to your fullest, because that's life. And then you're living. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for your vulnerability. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for being transparent. Thank you for taking a stand for world transformation.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for sharing your testimony. This podcast is forever going to be on the internet. And at any time that you watch this podcast, there's no coincidences in God's world. You were directed here for a very, very special reason. Take what resonates and apply it to your life. And anything that doesn't, nothing to do with us.
Right.
Take what resonates, use that medicine, apply it to your life, and transform. We have Sari available for coaching, for business, for personal development. Very powerful story. Shoot, this is like, whew.
Thank you.
Deep story. I'm also available coaching for rebirth coaching to rebrand from anything in the past that you were to anything you want to be in the future. Down below, you're going to find all of her links, how to work with her, how to work with her daughter, check out the website. My info will be down below as well. Give this video a thumbs up. If you heard something you love, make sure you share this video. We love you. Tag us in it if you repost it.